The Beautiful Wife of the Whirlwind Marriage Chapter 1. Love is a superstition about the right time and place. It turns out that you are here too. Lin-che got up from the bed in a daze. Her mind was so cloudy that she did not quite feel like herself. The luxurious sheets touching her palm were not the usual ones that she had washed until they aged. The light above her head was also not the half-damaged, energy-saving lamp that she was accustomed to waking up to. Her body ached badly, as if it had just been torn apart by something. When she lifted her wrist, the purplish-green marks on it were clear and obvious to the eye. That was not a dream, right? She covered her mouth to stop herself from making any noise and lifted the blanket. When she saw that her body was completely naked, she almost let out a scream. Lin-che's astute eyes rolled along the bottom of her eyelids twice. She decisively removed the blanket and got out of bed. After gathering her messy clothes, she carelessly put them on and prepared to leave without looking back. Suddenly, someone grabbed the back of her neck. "Ah, let go of me. Let go." Lin-che struggled with her arms and legs. The man's large hand was pulling her neck, and he entertained bed with seemingly no effort. Despite being utterly confused by the way she was handled, Lin-che could not help but be dazzled by the man when she looked up at him. Her infatuated eyes fixed on his incomparably beautiful face, unable to look away. What a handsome man. His brooding eyes seemed to carry an aura of innate arrogance. His face was as cold as ice, and his straight nose rested high on his clear, pale face. His white jade-like skin made Lin-che, who thought she had fairly good skin, envious. She knew that she had seen her fair share of men, but in front of this specimen, those labeled as male gods were immediately eclipsed by him. Was this the same man who had tormented her yesterday until she was half dead in the span of half a night? "Who sent you here? How dare you drug me? After doing something like that, you think you can still leave here unharmed?" He looked at this blanked-out woman, anger flashing deep in his eyes. This strange woman had skin as fair as snow, a pleasantly small face, and a pair of big, expressive eyes. Her eyelashes fluttered like a deer in headlights, but she glared at him unyieldingly. Gu Jing's gaze fixed on Lin-che as her eyes started to move quickly along with her head. She was but a D-list celebrity. After going through many difficulties, she had found out today that A-list celebrity Gu Jingyu was here. Thus, she specifically bought some condiments that could make one lose consciousness and put them in his water, thinking that she could take advantage of him. However, she had drugged the wrong person. The person before her, though dizzyingly handsome, was evidently not the top celebrity Gu Jingyu. He pulled roughly on her arm again, sending her to the ground. Embarrassingly, she even rolled over once before finding her bearings. What are you doing? Do you think I'd still be lying here if I drugged you? You must be mistaken. The person who is suffering the most right now is me." Her butt hurt due to the fall, notwithstanding her hurt arm. Worst of all, the pain in her nether regions could not be ignored. Incensed with anger, she shouted directly, "The person I wanted to drug was someone else. It had nothing to do with you. You think you're worth drugging? Yours truly does not lay her hands on just anyone. Return me my drug money." Drugged the wrong person? Gu Jing's face tensed and his brow furrowed, which formed 3 vertical wrinkles. His jet-black pupils were like those of a crouching beast's, ones that were staring at this woman in messy clothes. Half of her snow-white shoulder was exposed, and the purplish-green bruises on it were all the more prominent, like plum blossoms blooming on her tender white skin. The images of the previous night flashed through his mind a second time. His lower abdomen suddenly heated up again, and he felt the obvious arousal surging through his body. He shifted his gaze away from her. This damn woman! How dare she drug him? And with such a potent drug. His momentary loss of focus finally gave Lin-che an opportunity. In her desperation, she jumped off the bed and pushed the man away. Not daring to look back, she quickly ran out. Upon hearing him hiss, she shouted, "What are you looking at? Go look at yourself. You..." Gu Jingze was just about to turn around and grab her when he felt a wave of discomfort. His lower area was once again standing tall and proud. Damn it, he cursed loudly. He clenched his fist in an attempt to curb that damn desire. A series of sounds traveled in from outside. Qin Hao looked back as he was so astonished that his mouth could not close. What was that earlier situation? Why did a woman in disheveled clothes, of all things, run out of Sir's room? Sir. Second young master called to ask if the room was satisfactory, but you fell asleep immediately after you came back yesterday night, so the subordinates did not disturb you. The assistant has informed the president of your schedule. He is waiting for you in the presidential residence. Also, the lady I saw earlier. Shut up. Gu Jingze lifted his sharp eyes, his pupils flashing. Qin Hao immediately swallowed all the doubts that he should not have been having. In the bathroom, Gu Jingze continuously scrubbed his body until his skin became sore. Only then did he look into the mirror and swear loudly. Sir, Madam is here, Qin Hao reminded him softly from outside, nervousness lacing his voice. Gu Jingze froze. His mother coming over at the moment could not be good news. When he opened the bathroom door, the glamorous lady standing outside was looking at the messy bed in shock. The scattered sheets that were not arranged indicated to anyone of exactly what had happened the night before. Gu Jingze's eyes darkened. He grabbed the bathrobe and draped it over his honey-colored shoulders. I know what you want to ask, but Mother, I'm very busy today. How could Mu Wanqing not ask? She could hardly hide the excitement on her face. Looking at Gu Jingze, she pointed to the bed and said, Jingze, I already know. You slept with a girl. Gu Jingze pushed the door open and said coldly to Mu Wanqing, Can you keep your hands off of this matter? How can I not care? Jingze, you must marry this girl. You must be responsible for what you did to her. He knew she would say so. Mother, I will not marry her. I'm not crazy. She's just a stranger. I don't even know her name. Her name is Lin Che. She's 23 years old. She's the illegitimate daughter of the Lin Group's Lin family and has 2 elder sisters and 1 younger brother. Her mother died when she was young and her father does not seem to care about her. She lives in the Lin residence, but she doesn't get any financial support from the Lin family. Mother! Gu Jingze stood rooted to the ground. Upon remembering the woman, he became even more frustrated. Are you still thinking about that Mo Huiling? I'm telling you, it's impossible between you and her. You've been with her for so many years, but you still couldn't even touch her. You two are not destined to be together. Mu Wanqing said rudely. Mother, enough. Gu Jingze cut her off. However, Mu Wanqing was too agitated. Jingze, you know that you can't satisfy a woman at all because of your illness. The family has almost finished making preparations for artificial insemination so that you can have a child. However, you touched a woman today. It must mean that she's the one most suited for you. Mother, she used an unorthodox method. It has nothing to do with my illness getting better, Gu Jingze said, his eyes darkening. Mu Wanqing looked at him and said, You think I've never tried that on you? It never worked. Each time we could only call for the doctor to handle it, time and time again. But you touched her. Furthermore, your subordinates said that you were very satisfied with her and did it more than once the entire night. Gu Jingze pressed his clenched fist on the tempered glass table and said, Maybe the drug this time was different. In any case, I won't marry this crazy woman who doesn't have an ounce of morality. Mother, you should give up on this idea. As Lin Che walked on the streets and looked at the mess all over her body, she cursed silently in frustration. That damned drug seller. She had felt that something was wrong with him when she bought the drug. All she had said was that she needed a drug to make someone fall asleep, but she had never said that she wanted such a drug. Now, look at what the man did to her after consuming it. She could still feel the pain throughout her body when she recalled what had happened. The excruciating pain in her nether regions brought to mind the events of the previous night. That darned man had tormented her many times to the point that she fainted and could not remember anything else. The only thing she remembered from before. Lin-Che, look at yourself. You still want to be a celebrity? It's better to listen properly to your stepmother. I'll find you a good family to marry into. An illegitimate child is just an illegitimate child. You will always be second-rate. Lin-Che, stepmother is doing this for your own good. Your eldest sister, Lin Li, is now a top celebrity. Your second sister is also a top producer. After so many years, you're still just a D-list celebrity. You have no prospects. Little Che, the company has already allocated the role to someone else this time. We think that your image does not suit the role. She smiled bitterly. If they had not pushed her into a corner, she would not have come up with such a sinister plot. All she wanted was to continue living. But now. Lin-Che rushed to the company. Regardless of what had happened, she did not forget that she had an audition today. Upon seeing her arrive, Yu Minmin's face darkened as she glared at Lin-Che and said, "So you still came. I thought you didn't care about this audition." "Sorry, Sister Yu, I came late." Lin-Che quickly covered up the mess on her clothes. With one look, Yu Minmin saw the marks on her neck. She lowered her head and inspected Lin-Che's clothes. Pulling on Lin-Che's collar, she said, "We're meeting the director soon. I don't care about your personal life. However, if you still want this role, you better freshen up so you don't look like a prostitute." Lin-Che looked down at herself. Only then did she discover the marks that left little to the imagination. They were too obvious and too embarrassing. That stupid man. He was a total beast. Lin-Che immediately bowed and apologized. Pulling on her clothes, she ran to the bathroom, thinking to herself, it was all that man's fault. He had basically put an end to her life or whatever future she had. All of a sudden, her phone started ringing. Lin-Che picked up the phone in exasperation. "Hello?" "Lin-Che, where were you last night?" Lin Yukai sounded angry through the phone to Toti Seldom called her unless something was up. For many years, he was dispensable as a father, but Lin-Che could not treat him as a completely non-existent person. After all, she still needed to live in the Lin household. Lin-Che thought about what had happened last night. Feeling guilty, she said, I had something on last night." "I don't care what you were busy with. Your sister, Lin Li, wants to discuss her engagement with the family today." "How dare you stay out all night?" Lin Yukai reprimanded fiercely. Yes, Lin Li was getting engaged, but that was none of her business. Lin-Che listened calmly to her father's angry tirade without a sliver of sadness in her heart. After so many years, she had already become accustomed to his scoldings. "I don't care what you have going on. You must come back now. If I discover that you're not back, I'll dig out her ashes from the Lin family grave and throw it into the sea so you'll never see any part of your mother for the rest of your life." When he finished speaking, Lin Yukai hung up the phone. The Lin household. Han Kaiying watched as Lin Yukai put down the phone. She eagerly asked, "Is she coming back?" Lin Yukai replied, "She's coming back." Han Kaiying stretched out a hand to caress Lin Yukai's chest in an attempt to appease him. "Old master, you must have a talk with her so that she agrees to this marriage proposal. I was really shocked when the Cheng family suddenly proposed marriage. Lin Yu is an outstanding girl. She's beautiful and sensible, so how could I let her marry that retard? I even heard that he's incontinent. They just want Lin Yu to marry into their family so that they would have a maid. As for Lin-Che, she's an illegitimate child anyway. Who should go if not her?" "Don't worry," Lin Yukai said. "I can't bear to let Lin Yu suffer either, but Lin-Che is also my daughter." "Great. So you mean that you'd make Lin Yu clean up someone else's feces and urine instead of Lin-Che? If that's the case, Lin Yukai, you really don't have a conscience. Back when you had this daughter with another woman, I let her stay in the Lin household and brought her up. Now that she's grown up, you wouldn't even let her help me out a little. Given her standard, letting her marry into the Chung family to enjoy their wealth is an honor for her. All right. Seeing as Han Kai-ying had begun bringing up the past and was nagging incessantly, Lin Yukai quickly stopped her and said, "I'll make her go. She'll go." Lin Yukai had indeed hesitated, but upon ruminating, there was no one else to choose besides Lin Che. They could not afford to offend the Chung family. Although their son was a retard, they were at least rolling in money. Marrying Lin Che into their family could be considered quite a fair treatment towards her. Then, the housekeeper called from outside. "Old master, madam, third miss is back." The housekeeper said to Lin Che, "Old master and madam are waiting for you inside. First miss is discussing her engagement today, so your brother-in-law is here." 2. Lin Che looked at the housekeeper in astonishment. "Qin Qing is here?" The housekeeper said, "Yes, he went in right before you." Pleasantly surprised, Lin Che ran into the house only to stop a moment later. Inside, Qin Qing and Lin Li were standing together in the hallway. They were leaning close together, their lips almost touching. It was a bad time to disturb them. Lin Che stood there rooted, forgetting to even move away. When she finally attempted to turn around, she felt a slap on her face which nearly sent her to the ground. As her cheek burned, Han Kai-ying grabbed her and pulled her into a room. After shutting the door, Han Kai-ying turned around to glare at Lin Che. She pointed accusingly at Lin Che and said, "You shameless whore. Don't think I didn't see what you were up to. That is your brother-in-law. How shameless can you be to dare attempt at seducing him?" Lin Che stood rooted to the ground. Holding her burning cheek, Lin Che smirked at Han Kai-ying and said, "Stepmother, if I really wanted to seduce him, I wouldn't be just standing there and watching." Oh, Han Kai-ying's lungs were about to explode with anger. As Lin Che was about to leave, Han Kai-ying yanked her by the shoulder and sent her directly to the ground. "Have you not looked at yourself? We've been looking after you for so long with a bodhisattva's heart. How dare you talk back to me when we saved you from dying on the streets with your crazy mother? So what if I hit you?" However, the obvious marks on Lin Che's neck appeared before her as clear as day. It was offensive to the eye. As if she had made some grand discovery, Han Kai-ying said as if she was crazy, Well, Lin Che, I knew you had bad intentions towards our Lin family. You're just like your mother, only knowing how to go around seducing people. Go somewhere else if you want to seduce someone. Don't embarrass yourself in our house. Qin Qing is the successor of the Qin family. Do you think that a whore like you is good enough for him? He won't even spare you a glance." Han Kai-ying's slap did not make Lin Che sad at all. However, this simple sentence was enough to cut through Lin Che's heart. Despite so, Lin Che started laughing. She snorted as she pulled up her clothes to cover her shoulders and patted her clothes nonchalantly as she said, "If you think I'm not good enough for him, so much so that he won't even look at me, why are you so anxious?" Han Kai-ying heard some noise coming from outside. Qin Qing was chataning with Lin Li. Their conversation and laughter made her nervous. Afraid of being discovered, Han Kai-ying lowered her voice and moved closer to Lin Che. She said threateningly, "Don't play any tricks." After thinking for a bit, she spoke again. "People from the Chung family are coming later with their second son, Chung Tianyu. Don't say that I don't care about you. I'll let you meet him later. The Chung family has a good reputation and background in our country. If you marry into their family, you will enjoy endless fortunes." Lin Che's gaze wavered. Of course, she knew who the second son of the Chung family was. "Stepmother, you want me to marry a retard?" And she even claimed that it was out of concern for her. Lin Che let out a shout of protest. "What, you don't want to? Marry him yourself if you want to. I'm not a puppet that you can manipulate." Lin Che quickly yanked open to the worn shore. Seeing this, Han Kai-ying held her back with all her strength. Lin Che tossed all concerns aside at that moment. She turned around and pushed Han Kai-ying aside. Sprawled out on the ground, Han Kai-ying said angrily, "Lin Che, if you dare to leave, I will make sure your father throws out your mother's ashes." Lin Che ran out in desperation. Meanwhile, Gu Jingze was soon called back to the Gu family mansion. Naturally, the incident had been quickly reported to his grandfather, Gu Xiande, who was also the head of the family. Gu Jingze remained unwavering in his stance. He looked at Gu Xiande before him and said, "Grandfather, Mother does not understand the situation at all. That woman and I did not sleep together of our own accord. It was just an accident." "Jingze, why must you be so stubborn? Think about it. Would it really be unbearable for you to marry her? You have already touched her. Don't you miss that feeling even a little bit?" "Not at all," Gu Jingze replied. "Jingze, I'm extremely disappointed in you." The calm and old Gu Xiande looked coldly at Gu Jingze with his imposing aura. Gu Jingze glared at Mu Wan King, who was behind him. However, Mu Wan King bore a self-righteous expression. "Our Gu family will definitely take responsibility for what we've done. Furthermore, she's not just crucial for you to have a normal married life. She's also the key to curing your illness. You should be more rational. In any case, you slept with the girl. You can't just take advantage of her and then forget about everything," Gu Xiande said. Gu Jingze looked at his aged grandfather and said, "But I do not know her at all. Grandfather, how can I agree to marrying a total stranger? What if I tell you that if you don't get married, I will make your little lover, what's her name? Mo Huailing, right. I will make her lose her career, so that she feels like it's better to be dead than alive?" Gu Xiande's eyes were strikingly similar to Gu Jingze's. When he made a threat, his gaze was calm, but his eyes projected a hidden current of cold ruthlessness. Gu Jingze said, "You know that I won't let you get away with it." Gu Xiande said, "I know that your wings have hardened and I can no longer control you. All three of you have become rebellious one by one. One became a president, another became a celebrity, and you. You have always been mature, but rebellious. But even if I can't do anything to you, I definitely have my ways of tormenting a little girl. You can try me." Disgust flashed in Gu Jingze's eyes, but they darkened into a slight glint. Lin Che only ran a few steps before she saw several cars driving over noisily. People from the Lin family. Lin Che wanted to leave, but it was apparent that the Lin family took this very seriously. Nearly all of them had been mobilized and they soon surrounded Lin Che. "Lass, I'm doing this for your own good. Still, you dare run away. Go and bring her back for me." Lin Che stared at Han Kai-ying, resisting the urge to rush up and slap her. However, she was ultimately alone and could not prevail over these people who had strength in numbers. With her hands tied behind her back, Lin Che was brought back to the Lin household. The makeup artist came to freshen Lin Che up while Han Kai-ying stared at her murderously. She reprimanded her arrogantly. "To think that someone like you is attempting to escape me? In a while, you better be dressed up to meet Cheng Tianyu." Lin Che clenched her teeth and struggled a little, but it was all futile. As Han Kai-ying looked at Lin Che after she had been freshened up, she thought to herself, "This lass looks very beautiful when she's dressed up. Her delicate face is enough to keep her on any man's mind." She thought to herself, "She has to be married into the Chung family as soon as possible. Otherwise, she would always be around Qin Qing. If Qin Qing really falls in love with her, then Lin Li's position would be compromised." Someone outside announced Cheng Tianyu's arrival. Under Han Kai-ying's command, Lin Che was immediately released from her binds and pushed to the front. Through the door, she could hear the Chung family's spirited voices. "We all know that the third miss is just an illegitimate daughter. She's not really worthy of our Tianyu, but she does look quite good in photographs. After marrying into our family, as long as she helps continue the Chung family's bloodline, she will benefit greatly in the future. Give birth? Lin Che sneered and thought, was she being treated as a tool for procreation? Lin Che saw a man standing there with a small stature of 1.6 meters. He was convulsing, shaking his head constantly as he looked around. Like a sloppy child, he was chewing on his fingers. Han Kai-ying smiled and said, "You see, Lin Che, this is your future husband. Your golden days are coming soon." Of course, Lin Che could hear the arrogance and mockery in Han Kai-ying's words. Then, Chung Tianyu suddenly went into a fit of madness. Wailing loudly, he launched himself at the people to the side. The people inside were plunged into great confusion and chaos. People from the Cheng family and the Lin family surrounded the retard completely. Han Kai-ying was shocked. The way that the retard looked as he barged about was so disgusting to her that she almost vomited. In her heart, she was relieved. Fortunately, it was now Lin Che who had to marry him, not Lin Yu. Otherwise, she would have really died from anger. She then turned around and discovered that there was no one beside her. Lin Che, where did Lin Che go? Go after her. Give her a good beating when you catch her. The look in Han Kai-ying's eyes changed as her face scrunched up. Lin Che did not know how she had escaped. She only knew that when she was finally alone, her lungs were about to explode from running. But right at that moment, she saw a car parked casually to the side. Lin Che's head stopped moving. Behind the car window, Gu Jingzi's disdainful face appeared before her eyes. The man said coldly, "We need to talk." Lin Che raised her head hesitantly and said, "How did you find me?" When she got into his car, she looked at his perfect profile, only to be struck by his attractiveness. It was a pity that his personality did not match up to his good looks. However, he did not look at her. Instead, he looked coolly to the side and said, "How much money do I have to give you in order for you to marry me?" What? Had she misheard him? He said directly, "Since we can't undo what we did, I have to fulfill my responsibility by marrying you." Hey, I don't think that's necessary. Lin Che thought that he was joking. As if he knew what she was thinking, he turned his head and said, "I'm not joking. I need to marry you. If you agree, we can sign the marriage document now. I advise you to seize this rare opportunity." Lin Che was at a loss for words, only to start laughing. This man spoke as if marrying him was a splendid thing. However, he wasn't his younger brother Gu Jingyu. If she could marry Gu Jingyu, she definitely would not need to work so hard to get her name out there. Lin Che said, "What benefits will I get out of marrying you?" Gu Yingzi felt disgusted when he looked into her eyes. "If you're my wife, I'll pay for all of your expenses. I can also provide you with accommodations. If you have a boyfriend or someone you like, I'll give you the money you deserve when we divorce so that no man will be able to look down on you. Furthermore, I can get rid of any obstacle in your way. Trust me, this marriage will only do you good. You won't regret it." After hearing the first part of his speech, Lin Che felt that this joke was getting out of hand. However, she felt a little tempted when she heard the last condition he offered. Indeed, she would not have to return to the Lin household or marry the retard from the Chung family if she married him. But could he really help her? "So, do you mean we'll eventually get a divorce?" Lin Che asked. She was considering divorce now? But she was right. Since it was a marriage of convenience, it was not wrong to consider the future benefits at the outset. Gu Jingze nodded. "Yes. When I decide to divorce you, you must cooperate with me. I will find a reasonable excuse and I will make sure not to hurt our reputation. But I must remind you that we will sign a prenuptial agreement. You can't covet any other benefits." "Hey, you're really rude. I don't want any other benefits from you," Lin Che said, having reached the limit of her patience. Gu Jingze opened the door of his Porsche. We don't need manners in this marriage. It's not like we'll be growing old together. But are you absolutely sure that we're really getting married? You know that I just met you. We don't understand each other at all. Lin Che was still doubtful. Gu Jingze stared at her and said, What else do we need to know? I understand every nook and cranny of your body. You? Lin Che blushed furiously upon recalling that night. That wasn't my fault alone. I've already explained it to you. After all, she was still a girl. She glared angrily at Gu Jingze, but his face remained passive, making her even angrier. Gu Jingze looked back and said, Fine, I won't bring this up again. Also, I know that marriage is a serious step to take. As my wife, I promise to respect you and to make our lives as comfortable as possible. I'm not trying to scam you into marriage, Sunnies. Since I've decided to do it, I will treat it seriously. Gu Jingze's passive face bore a graceful posture and calmness. His extraordinary aura was very pleasing. It was perhaps this that made Lin Che feel that marrying him was not a bad thing at all. Silently, she nodded her head. Gu Jingze let out a breath of relief. He quietly gestured to the driver to start the engine. Marriage was an extremely fast process. For a marriage without love, everything was as simple as signing a contract. Outside, a driver alighted from a black Porsche. He walked up to Lin Che and respectfully took her bag. With his head bowed, he said enthusiastically, Madam, please make your way into the car. Lin Che nodded. She was still unaccustomed to being called Madam. On her other side, the man who had been expressionless from the start walked past her to stand beside the car. Without a doubt, her husband was so handsome that he could incur the indignation of all gods and men. That face with its tall nose and deep, calm eyes could infatuate anyone. Under his lush hair, his face was pale and clear, but devoid of femininity. His lean figure carried an irresistible allure with it. Gu Jingze turned around. As he looked at Lin Che, he said monotonously, I've already informed my family that there won't be a wedding. That would be best. It's supposed to be a secret marriage. I don't want things to blow up either, Lin Che said. Upon hearing this, Gu Jingze scoffed. After all, the method you used was improper. If someone were to find out, you would only be more embarrassed. Hey, Gu Jingze, I said that it was just an accident. Lin Che's calm face darkened. Whenever the incident came up, she felt guilty that her carelessness had caused it to happen. Furthermore, both of them had been at fault. She was not the only one to be blamed. Gu Jingze drew in a breath. He knew that he had gone overboard, having already promised not to bring it up again. Sorry. He looked at Lin Che's blushing face and continued, I apologize. We signed the agreement, and I'm not supposed to mention it again. I was just being impulsive. But you have to know that I'm not marrying you out of my free will. I have someone I love. Lin Che sensed the sincerity in his voice. She lifted her head to give his face a sideward glance. She honestly felt sorry for him. He was forced to marry a total stranger all because of her mistake. The thought calmed her down. It's all right. I can understand. We just got married and we still have to live together in the future. Adjusting to each other is unavoidable. Yes, I'll get used to it as soon as possible. I hope that you'll do as the contract terms say. Don't worry. I'm a professional actress. I'll take our contract seriously. I'll act like I'm in love with you in front of the Gu family and play my role well. I also hope that you can follow the contract. This is a fake marriage. Let's not have any physical contact, Lin Che said. Of course. However, you should know that we must live together to dispel my family's suspicions. Sure. I said that I would cooperate as long as you don't interfere with my life. Don't worry. I've never been interested in uncultured, ill-mannered, and shabby women like you, Gu Jingze said, while his eyes swept over her face. That's just not nice. Neither am I interested in men who are wolves in sheep's clothing with no skills in bed, ones who only know how to use brute force, Lin Che said adamantly. You... Gu Jing's handsome face clouded over. His eyes burned with anger as he glared at Lin Che. It was inappropriate of her to casually ridicule his behavior in bed. What? I was telling the truth, and anyway, you criticized me first. Lin Che's crescent eyes glared at him. All right, I'm sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have said it, Gu Jingzi said while pulling at his clothes. Lin Che nodded. I accept your apology. I won't touch you again anyway, so I won't mention your skills anymore. Gu Jing's face darkened even more. Resisting the urge to throw another tantrum, he said, While we're living together, we may have to share a bedroom like a typical married couple, so that word doesn't get out. If my family hears about it, we'll be in trouble. I'll respect your freedom. You can make friends and you can have your privacy. I won't ask about it as long as it doesn't compromise my reputation. Don't worry, I have my professional ethics. Since I'm married to you, I won't casually get involved in scandals with other men. We'll be divorcing soon anyway. I can tolerate this for at least these few years. Okay. It's a deal. Deal. Of course, although they were married, in reality, they were no different from two strangers who had gotten a marriage certificate. As if he had completed some mission, Gu Jingzi did not look at his new bride again. Instead, he turned his head and gestured to the people following behind him outside. Lin Che followed Gu Jingzi through the downtown area and into a compound. There was a 3-story villa in the courtyard. The person inside smiled at Lin Che as she came out of the car. His hands were folded, and his head was bowed as he said respectfully, Madam, you can call me Butler He. Oh. Dazed, Lin Che looked inside. The courtyard was wide and spacious with a long and straight road leading in. A lush green field stretched into the distance. This place was so big that she could not see where it ended. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. You'll be staying here with me from now on. Oh, you'll be staying here too? Of course. Are you prepared to live separately already when we just got married? No, I'm just confirming. Lin Che raised her head and spoke. Looking at her, Gu Jingze said, My parents don't usually come over. You can command the servants as you wish. If you don't like the interior design, feel free to tell Butler Hu. You can change whatever you want as long as you don't touch my bedroom and study room. How rude that would be. Lin Che blurted, No, I'm not dissatisfied with anything. It would be too troublesome to renovate. Gu Jingze stopped in his tracks and looked at her with a distant gaze. The way he casually leaned against a corner of the table was very elegant. Maybe people with good looks looked good doing anything. Gu Jing's hand rested on the table. His slender fingers held his wallet. Their bone structure was distinct and beautiful, and their hands were definitely naturally suited to play the piano. Butler Hu will take you around the house, he said. I hope you get used to your surroundings soon. Butler Hu swiftly took her on a tour around the house. There was an alarmingly large number of rooms. The maids' quarters were outside, the kitchen was in the back, the living room was in the front, and the bedroom was upstairs. She felt that she would definitely lose her way if she went around alone. Although the Lin family was a fairly respectable family, the Lin residence was obviously drastically different from this place. She turned around to look at Butler Hu. This is Gu Jingzi's house? Yes, madam. From now on, it is also your house. Lin Che looked around. Gu Jingzi seems to be pretty wealthy. Yes, madam. Butler Hu looked at her with slight suspicion. Then, Butler Hu smiled and said, Although Sir seems difficult to get along with, he is a good person. You'll get used to it eventually. Please just relax. Lin Che pushed open the walnut-colored double doors to the bedroom. Immediately, she was faced with Gu Jingze's half-naked body as he stood beside the bathroom door. His lean, honey-colored body appeared more attractive after his recent shower. His muscles were symmetrically balanced on his chest and arms, giving him the perfect V-shaped body. The lines below his hip were also prominent. Lin Che took a long time to react. He wasn't wearing clothes. The white towel wrapped loosely around his lower body looked like it was about to fall. Lin Che shouted in surprise and ran out of the room, the door closing with a thud. Inside, Gu Jingzi frowned unhappily. For a moment, he regretted agreeing to his family's demands so easily. He liked elegant women, ones who were poised and dignified with proper etiquette and manners, just like Ma Huailing. But now, he was married to someone who he wasn't very compatible with, and it was all because of a ridiculous reason. However, this woman was now indeed his lawful wife. Lin Che stood against the door with her hand on her chest. She could feel her heart still beating furiously. The scene from earlier reappeared in her mind. There's no need for that. He threw his blanket down. I'll sleep on the couch, you sleep on the bed. He considered himself a gentleman. It was only right to decline. Lin Che could fall asleep anywhere. But for someone like Gu Jingze who lived in such a huge house, he wasn't a person who could adjust to inconvenience. It's all right. I'll sleep on the couch. For real. I'm used to doing that at home. At your height, it would be uncomfortable to sleep on the couch, she said. She stood at his side and was prepared to pull his elbow, but before she could touch him, he blocked her with his elbow. Lin Che fell directly to the ground and looked up at Gu Jingze, who had completely written off her good intentions. She offered him the bed because she wanted to get along with him, but a mere touch displeased him. Her anger began to rise slowly. Lin Che stood up and yelled, "Gu Jingze, are you crazy? Forget that I came to sleep on the couch out of kindness. What do you mean by this?" Gu Jingze raised his impeccable eyebrows, lowered his head, and patted the part of his elbow that she had touched. He looked calmly at the frazzled woman beside him and said coolly, "Let me get one thing straight. You caused all of this to happen. You're saying that you were being kind. Don't you think it's a little late now? Even if I drugged you, I didn't make you push me down. You could have rubbed me off by yourself, but you pushed me down instead. I should be the one to complain." As she said this, she felt even more sheepish, but she refused to give in verbally. It was his fault for being such a jerk. It had not registered to Gu Jingze what rubbed me off meant, but when he understood it, he found it unacceptable that a woman could be this uncouth. Another layer of ice seemed to freeze over his face, and he pointed his slender finger towards the door. "Get out!" Lin Che froze, having no clue as to what she was thinking when she impulsively argued with him like this. The more he looked down on her, the angrier she became. Glaring at him, she jumped onto his back. "Oh no!" "There's a rat. It's so scary. Rats are my greatest fear." Since he disliked her, she resolved to irritate him even more by sticking to him. Gu Jingze tensed up, when her soft, fragrant body latched onto him like a sloth. His body jolted and he instinctively tried to shake her off. "Let go!" He stretched his arm backward to push her off, but the two soft lumps pressing against his back started a flame inside his body. His body froze. Although Lin Che was quite tall at 168 centimeters, in comparison to Gu Jingze, who was at least 190 centimeters, she was much smaller. Her body was different from a man's. It was as soft as silk and as pliant as water. She clung to his body like a thin snake, making him realize that even though she was very tall, she was very slender. Her pale fingers held onto his arm and were comforting, even though the cold artis the touch. However, during this time, the lumps pressing against his back felt more and more prominent, and his body began to heat up uncontrollably. Damn it, the effect of the drug should have worn off a long time ago. However, his body was obviously reacting. "I won't let go. There's a rat. I'm afraid of rats." She held on to him for dear life and refused to let go. However, she suddenly felt his arm stretch out to grab her waist. He pulled her off his back and threw her down. Using the momentum, she held on to him and they both fell to the ground. When Gu Jingze regained his bearings, right before him was her soft, pink lips. He could also see a sliver of pearly white teeth. It was like a passionate invitation that left his throat dry. Surprised, Gu Jingze subconsciously pushed away the delicate body that had fallen on top of him. Lin Che felt a stabbing pain, particularly in the softest part of her chest, where his arm had jabbed her. It hurt so much that she was tearing up. Gu Jingze had just begun to relax when he saw Lin Che sitting on the floor with her hands on her chest, while tears flowed down her porcelain cheeks. Strangely, his heart lurched in his chest as he looked at her trembling shoulders. Somewhat frustrated, he regained his rationality and started reprimanding himself. He had indeed gone overboard. She was merely a girl in her early 20s, but she had been forced to accept this marriage without love. After all, it was both their fault. She was not the only one to blame. Her tears left him at a complete loss. He did not know how to comfort others and could only stand there. "Sorry, I apologize. This time it wasn't your fault. I was too emotional. To be honest, I'm just like you. I haven't gotten used to having a woman beside me. I didn't push you because I dislike you, actually. I have an illness that doesn't allow me to touch women." His explanation was unexpected. She raised her teary eyes in surprise and confusion. He thought to himself, since they had to live together, he should tell her about his illness. Letting out a breath, he said, "I'm fine with men, but all women make me feel uncomfortable. It's not simply that I can't touch them. I will even develop rashes, vomit repeatedly, and my blood will flow backward. That is why I avoided you." Lin Che could not understand. Such an illness exists? Is it a psychiatric condition? Gu Jingze sat there with his back straight as a ramrod as always. He looked completely healthy. His eyes were as still as water in a well. He was used to this. After all, he had seen countless doctors for 30 years. He only had to keep it a secret from outsiders. "It's both." He massaged his temples with his slightly bent fingers. He looked a little fatigued. "You must keep this a secret from outsiders. I'm telling you only because we'll be living together. I hope you know that my family wanted us to get married because they think you can curb my illness since I touched you." So this was the truth. It was a pity that they were mistaken. In actual fact, Lin Che could not heal his illness. She knew that what had happened between them was because of some things she had done. Lin Che nodded her head in embarrassment. Of course. It's not your fault that you're ill. Sorry. I touched you because I didn't know about it. I promise I won't touch you again." He looked at Lin Che doubtfully. She put up 3 fingers, her fingertips soft and lovely. Her gaze was fixed on him as she smiled at him resolutely. Gu Jingze looked away from her and said quietly, "Okay, let's go to bed then." Lin Che nodded her head vigorously. She massaged her injured chest and stood up. "I'll sleep on the couch." "No need." Gu Jingze lay down on the couch. Putting aside her guilt, Lin Che didn't dare to touch him again. She found a blanket and dived under it. After turning off the lights, the room was plunged into darkness. Their breathing mixed into the air and circulated slowly. The couch was not comfortable, so he kept adjusting and readjusting his body. He could clearly hear someone tossing and turning on the bed. His brow furrowed in unhappiness. He could tell that she was sleeping soundly, but her sleeping posture was truly unsightly. He really could not get used to having a woman, especially one who he had slept with, share the same room with him. As such, he got up and walked out. The next day, Lin Che opened her eyes to unfamiliar surroundings. It took her a few minutes to remember that she was now married. But where was her husband? She jumped off the bed. Everything on the couch had been returned to its original place, but the person on it was nowhere to be found. Lin Che left the room and went to the dining room. The maid bowed to her from the side. "Madam, I'll lead you to the dining room." The moment she arrived, she saw Gu Jingze bathed in sunlight. She walked over with light footsteps. His emotionless expression immediately lowered the temperature throughout the dining room by a few degrees. His well-defined body appeared even more upright in a suit. Without clothes, his body was muscular, only to appear leaner with clothes on. His face, which could make any woman heave a sigh, and his mysterious, dignified gaze made Lin Che's brow rise slightly after just a simple glance. "Hi. Good morning." She walked over to greet him. However, Gu Jingze simply raised his eyebrows and looked her once over. The casual clothes she was wearing had been prepared by the maids. They flattered and accentuated her figure. Gu Jingze lowered his head in silence. With his bony fingers, he reached for the white ceramic coffee cup on the table. He did not raise his head again. How cold and distant. Lin Che pouted and sat down. Throughout the meal, they did not interact at all. When they left, the maid looked at Lin Che's unhappy face and said anxiously, "Madam, Sir is not a bad person. Sometimes he's just grumpy in the morning, especially if he didn't get a good night's rest." Lin Che asked, "He didn't sleep well last night?" The maid replied, "Yes. Sir woke up in the middle of the night and went to the study room to sleep, so he didn't sleep well." Lin Che opened her mouth slightly in surprise and was at a loss for words. She came to a realization after thinking about it. He had been forced to marry her because of the accident. Understandably, he probably felt uncomfortable, especially when he loved another woman. It was unlikely he felt happy sleeping with her in the same room. Sighing, she thought to herself, Gu Jingze is also pitiable. He's an unusually privileged person, but he's afflicted with such a strange illness. Putting it this way, it was because she had carelessly mistaken him for someone else that he lost the woman he loved and had to marry her instead. She suddenly felt as if she had separated a pair of lovebirds and began to blame herself. Lin Che packed up in preparation to go to the company. On her way out, she saw a group of people walking out noisily. When she looked more closely, she saw Gu Jingze leading them. His tall and lean figure made her think of a crane standing among chickens. His neatly tailored pants wrapped around his long legs, which made large strides that were especially smooth and elegant. His gait diminished some of the aloofness in his eyes, while his stern figure carried a slight indifference. An aura of calm authority could be naturally felt. He unhurriedly stepped through the double doors and seemed like he was about to leave. Lin Che chased after him in a hurry. "Wait for me. Wait for me." Gu Jingze's austere expression changed upon hearing her chatter. His eyebrows knitted together. He turned his head to see Lin Che wearing a flattering dress cinched at the waist. She was running towards him like a madman. His brow furrowed even more. However, her flailing black hair accentuated her white skin so that it seemed like snow. It made her appear cleaner and tidier. He drew in a long breath, turned his gaze away, and continued walking out. "Take me along, Gu Jingze. I'm going to the company." "I'll get someone to send you there," he said curtly, while looking straight ahead. "Oh. Okay. You can just bring me to the bus stop. There's no need to waste a car on me." Gu Jingze frowned. The Gu family is not so poor that their madam has to save money on transport by taking the public bus. His gaze rested on her face, and after some contemplation, he said, "Get in." Hearing this, Lin Che quickly stumbled after Gu Jingze, eager to save $2. Gu Jingze's car was huge. It was not the car that they had taken yesterday. Inside, the seats were made of leather and had a fresh smell to them. Gu Jingze looked down at the marks that her shoes had left and frowned. "Why are your shoes so dirty?" Lin Che looked down and saw an unsightly footprint. She laughed in embarrassment and said, "I don't have shoes." Seeing Gu Jingze's impeccable eyebrows twist again, she curled her lips and said, "What are you dissatisfied about? It's not like I wanted it to happen. These are my only pair of shoes." Gu Jingze looked at her. She was dressed messily, and her slender, long legs could be vaguely seen. He inspected her clothes. It was the same set of clothing that she had worn yesterday, and she looked ridiculously shabby. He said, "I'll take you to buy some clothes first." Hearing this, Lin Che blurted out, "My clothes are fine. It's just that I didn't bring them over. When there's a chance, I'll go back, get my things, and bring them over." But Gu Jingze had already instructed the driver, "Find a place where we can buy clothes for the madam." The driver immediately took a U-turn. Lin Che was embarrassed. "It's really not necessary. It'll be too troublesome for you." Gu Jingze swept his eyes over her clothes. He did not know where she had bought the dress. It had been washed so many times that it was obviously old. She had probably worn it numerous times. "Your clothes are too dirty. I feel uncomfortable just looking at them." Fine then. Since it makes him comfortable, he can buy whatever he wants. To think that she had thought he was being nice. This is called being frugal. What do you know? You're used to treating shabbiness as thriftiness, but that's not a habit of mine. His eyes were, as usual, indifferent. Lin Che said, "Yes, of course. It's good to be rich. You can change your clothes every day. I don't have many, so I wear each piece of clothing for a long time. How many times do you think I've worn this piece? It cost several hundred yuan. Of course, I won't throw it away until I've worn it out." Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. The Lin family shouldn't be that poor. Lin Che smiled while looking at him. "So, you investigated me pretty thoroughly. Naturally, you think I would casually marry a woman without investigating her?" Lin Che fiddled with her sleeves. "But didn't you just find out that I'm an illegitimate daughter of the Lin family? My father never treated me as a part of the Lin family. As a child, I lived with the nanny. It was only when he saw that I had grown up and had value that he gave me a room. When I was younger, my clothes were always hand-me-downs from Lin Li and Lin Yu. Even if the clothes had been washed repeatedly, or even torn, they were still nice clothes. I would always ask the nanny to mend them for me and continue wearing them." Gu Jingze's eyebrows twitched. As he looked at her, his gaze began to settle. Soon, the two of them arrived at a branded fashion store. The moment they stepped in, Gu Jingze swept his gaze across the store and said to the salesperson following them, "Give me all the clothes in her size." Seeing how decisive Gu Jingze was, the salesperson's eyes began to light up. He quickly led Lin Che further inside. Lin Che was a little dumbstruck. This was the first time she was experiencing how the rich went shopping. Lin Che changed out of her dress and into a beautiful skirt. It wrapped around her body and instantly brightened up her appearance tremendously. Inside, Lin Che tried each piece one by one. The salesperson enthusiastically assisted her with a great attitude. To the side, Gu Jingze sat elegantly on a chair, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. Although Lin Che had politely declined, it was apparent that she had never seen such a scene once they arrived. She went around the store, looking at everything with a constant wide-eyed surprise. It really seemed as if she had never worn nice clothes. However, when he raised his head, Lin Che stood before him in a jade-green gown. It accentuated her bright and fair skin and rendered it almost translucent. She looked like a stream after a rain, refreshing and pleasing. Her long and slender legs were also exposed. On the whole, she appeared sensual and beautiful, with a hint of cuteness. The salesperson Drakar, the salesperson smiled as she complimented, "This piece is perfect for you, madam. You look beautiful in it." Lin Che felt embarrassed at the praise. Gu Jingze looked on. It was undeniable that she looked good in the dress. Although she usually looked sloppy and uncultured, she currently appeared graceful and was full of feminine charm. He could not help but steal 2 more glances. When he saw Lin Che turn her head, he quickly directed his gaze elsewhere. Gu Jingze was very satisfied. He gestured for someone to foot the bill and said to the salesperson, "Wrap up everything in the store that suits her and send it to the Gu Villa." Lin Che was shocked. She looked at Gu Jingze with light beaming from her eyes. He was too rich. Naturally, the salesperson was extremely happy. She politely walked them out the door and watched with envy as Lin Che jogged up to the luxurious Porsche outside and got into the car. Soon, they arrived at the company. She thanked him before getting out of the car quickly. Yu Minmin brought Lin Che to the grand hall of a 7-star hotel where auditions were taking place. While walking, she said sternly, "There's a role for you to try out today. If you run off halfway like you did the last time, don't ever come to the company again. You really think you're Lin Li? If you want to pick and choose your roles, then be like her. Even if she's not insanely famous, at least she's a big celebrity. Otherwise, you better take your auditions seriously and stop coming up with silly ideas." Lin Che thought to herself, Lin Li had the full financial support of the Lin family, so of course she is famous. On the other hand, her stepmother had gone to great lengths to stunt her development. Also, Lin Li interfered whenever she got a role. Yet, she could not give up because of them. To do so would be the same as retreating before the fight had begun. Audition for the role properly today. Sister Yu continued. The investor this time is very rich. He's from the Gu family, a well-known and mysterious family. No one knows how rich or powerful they are. Even if you fail the audition, you'll definitely make rapid advances in your career if he takes a liking to you. Lin Che was no longer listening. Her attention had completely shifted to Lin Li and Qin Qing, who were walking toward her. Lin Li was slim and graceful, whilst Qin Qing was tall and handsome. When the two of them walked side by side, all eyes turned towards them. Wow, Lin Li. That's probably her fiancé beside her. I heard that they're getting engaged soon. Her fiancé's family is very rich, and he's a second-generation heir. Her fiancé is really handsome. They're a perfect match. Lin Li is really lucky. Before Lin Che could turn around and leave, she heard Qin Qing call out, "Lin Che? Why are you here?" Lin Che froze and looked back reluctantly. She saw Lin Li glare at her distastefully as they walked towards her. Lin Che smiled faintly at Qin Qing. "I came for an audition." Qin Qing stared at her clothes. He seemed to be thinking that she was different from her usual careless and loud self. She looked much more refreshing and even gave off a feminine charisma. "Where did you go? Your family has been looking for you." Qin Qing was still unaware of the circumstances. He only knew that the Lin family was in chaos. Han Kai-ying was always cursing Lin Che, calling her an ungrateful wretch and a total ingrate. Lin Che laughed bitterly and looked at Lin Li's smug expression. "I'm fine. I'll be staying with a friend in the future. I won't be going back to the Lin residence." Lin Li complained to Qin Qing. "Ah, Qing, you have no idea how anxious the family is. She's too insensible. My mother stayed awake all night out of worry, but she—" Lin Che snorted. Her stepmother was probably unable to sleep out of anger at having failed to sell her off. Lin Che did not want to watch her act any longer. She said coldly, "I still have an audition. Qin Qing, you guys go ahead." Staring longingly at Qin Qing, she clenched her fist tightly. Suddenly, sounds of exclamation arose from behind them. They looked back in astonishment, only to see a neat row of the best bodyguards clear a path to reveal Gu Jingze behind them. He was dressed in all black like a knight of the dark night, mysterious and aloof. Lin Che was stupefied. Seeing him, she felt like she was dreaming. Lin Li's sparkling eyes were already glued to him. She watched the tall and handsome man walk past her without so much as a side glance. With his arrogant expression and cold brow, he looked like a lofty emperor who did not permit anyone to get close to him. "Ah, Qin Qing, who's that? He looks really familiar." she asked Qin Qing, unable to hide her curiosity. On the other hand, Lin Che wanted to bury herself in the ground because she saw Gu Jingze shooting a look at her. Lin Li's exclamation instantly jolted her out of her daze. She saw Lin Li lower her head and say, "Is he looking at me?" Lin Che could not bear to stay there any longer. Whilst the place was in chaos, she ran out. After some time, she suddenly heard Lin Li's voice from behind her. "Lin Che, it would be best you go home." Lin Chi turned her head and said coldly, "I'm never going back." Lin Li sneered. "Don't think that I don't know about your motives towards Qin Qing. You're not good enough for him. He's about to get engaged to me soon and become your brother-in-law. If you're human, stop trying to flirt with him. Look at your status, you're an illegitimate daughter. Yet you still dare to have delusional thoughts about a rich young master like Qin Qing." Lin Che's heart writhed as Lin Li looked at her smugly. "At first, you still had a chance to squeeze into the upper ranks of society by becoming the young madam of the Cheng family. It's a pity that you weren't tactful." "What? You thought that you could have a chance with Qin Qing? If you're done, can I leave now?" If it was anyone else, she would have been fine, but she could not tolerate it when Qin Qing was mentioned. Lin Che took large strides towards the exit, but was pulled back roughly by Lin Li. "What kind of attitude are you showing me?" Lin Li sneered and said, "If you turn around now and lick the dirt off my shoes, I might let you have this role. Otherwise, as long as I'm around, don't ever think of getting involved in any major productions." Flabbergasted, Lin Che looked at Lin Li. "Who do you think you are?" Just as Lin Li was about to slap Lin Che to make her recognize who she exactly was, her expression suddenly changed. A slight shyness immediately showed on her beautiful face as she said gently to Lin Che, "Anyway, you must come home soon. Lin Che, I'm ultimately your older sister, and I hope you'll live well." Lin Che stared in confusion at her change in attitude and turned around. She did not know when Gu Jingzi's distant and silent figure had appeared behind her. At once, Lin Li looked towards this man with starry-eyed infatuation. Looking towards his perfectly sculpted face, she squeezed her breasts together as hard as she could. Fortunately, she had just gone for some breast treatment and was looking her best at this time. She had initially thought that Qin Qing was already perfect. He was immensely rich and handsome. However, in front of this man, he would definitely be ashamed of his inferiority. It was obvious from his extraordinary aura that he was not just any ordinary man. Lin Li was about to lose her mind from staring at that face that could make any woman shy. However, Gu Jingze merely glanced at Lin Li calmly before fixing his gaze on Lin Che's frightened face. She was as white as a ghost, a far cry from her warm and soft complexion this morning. Her long eyelashes were trembling slightly, and her lower lids were tinged with a greenish-blue color. She looked like a puppy that had just been abandoned. "Are you feeling unwell?" Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che with an expressionless face. Lin Che shivered. She raised her head with difficulty and said, "No, I'm fine. Come with me." He did not spare Lin Li a further glance. Instead, he walked straight ahead with long strides. Lin Che froze momentarily. She looked at Lin Li's contorted face beside her. From behind him, Gu Jingzi's assistant looked pointedly at her, indicating for her to follow after him. Without much of a choice, Lin Che hurried after him. She left behind a pale-faced Lin Li who stood there and shouted in surprise, "Lin Che knows him. That's impossible. Lin Che is nothing. She can't even be considered a D-list celebrity." But who exactly is this man? He has a noble air about him. Lin Li was a connoisseur. She knew that the handmade Italian suit that the man was wearing was not something that just anyone could buy. That designer brand was extremely expensive. Qin Qing had wanted to buy it, but failed to reserve a suit for the engagement party. Lin Li could not help but feel a little jealous. She glared at Lin Che's retreating back with hatred. Lin Che followed Gu Jingze towards the exit. "Thanks for your help earlier," she said to Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze did not move his head, but glanced at her sideways. "What are you doing here?" Lin Che said, "Oh, there's a role that I wanted to audition for, so I came to meet the director with the hope that I could get a chance to audition." Gu Jingze replied her with an "oh," and inspected her azure green outfit. She looked stunning and eye-catching. "Okay, look for me here after you're done. I'll take you home." Lin Che nodded. "Okay, but why are you here?" "This hotel is owned by the Gu family," he said monotonously. "So that's why," Lin Che thought in surprise. "A hotel this big." Lin Che said goodbye and left to handle her matters. Watching her leave, Gu Jingze turned to his side and asked his assistant Qin Hao, "She's here for an audition?" Looking in the direction that the madam left, Qin Hao said respectfully, "Yes." "Madam is auditioning for a role in a fantasy drama that the Gu family is investing in to promote our hotels. Filming will begin soon, and Third Young Master is the male lead." Gu Jingze's eyes shifted to the door in the direction that Lin Che had left. He lowered his head and said to Qin Hao, "Go out and make some arrangements." After Lin Che went in, she went to a great deal of effort before finding the director and producer. She then proceeded to walk over to them shamelessly. "Director Zhang, hello." The director's brow furrowed. "And you are?" "Oh, I'm Lin Che, an actress under Dynamic Pictures. The director immediately understood what she was here for and replied quickly, "Oh, if this is about the audition, look for the assistant. I'm not in charge over such matters." Of course, Lin Che knew that every one of Director Zhang's works was insanely famous. Naturally, it was even more difficult to get close to him personally. But in this line of work, sometimes it was about being thick-skinned. "I know that, Director Zhang. I'm not here to ask for the role. I just wanted to see you and tell you that ever since I graduated from the Drama Academy, I've looked up to you. I know that the dramas you've directed have all been critically acclaimed and popular. Their impeccable quality has left people dumbfounded. Everyone knows that once Director Zhang helms a project, it will definitely be a blockbuster production with numerous awards. So I came to see you, especially—" "Okay." Director Zhang interrupted her expressionlessly. "It's fine. There is no use flattering me. I've seen countless actresses like you. If I say no, I mean no." Lin Che still wanted to walk closer, but the director had turned around and gone inside without sparing her a glance. Lin Che could only chase after them, but she did not catch up to the director. Instead, a producer came out. Upon seeing Lin Che, he walked over to her with a friendly smile. "Hey, you must be Lin Che." Lin Che was surprised. She quickly flashed her signature smile and said, "Producer Chen, you know me?" "Yes, I've watched your shows. Although you didn't get many scenes, your acting is remarkable. Why? Do you want a role?" Lin Che blushed and said sheepishly, "I'm just hoping for a chance to audition." The producer assessed her, and his gaze began to soften. "All right, I'll speak to the director. You can come for an audition a few days from now." Lin Che looked at him with a pleasant surprise. "Really?" "Of course." He smiled and looked at her meaningfully. "Work hard." Thereafter, Lin Che returned to the luxurious lounge to look for Gu Jingze. He was seated inside where he was reading the documents in his hands. He looked up to see a hint of a smile at the ends of her eyebrows. When she smiled, her eyes crinkled up attractively. "Why do you seem to be in a good mood?" he asked. Lin Che blurted out, Yes. A famous director agreed to let me try out for a role in one of his projects. I knew it. As long as I make a move, I will definitely succeed. Indeed, My name has already spread in the entertainment circle. The producer even knew my name. My golden days are about to come. Of course I'm happy. Ha 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 ha. She smiled and hooked her arm around Gu Jingze's, swinging it happily. Gu Jingze lowered his head and looked at her errant hand in a speechless manner. Her pale and white fingers were randomly stroking across his arm in an inviting manner. Lin Che was still swaying, but when she met his gaze, she suddenly felt that something was wrong and quickly let go. Sorry. I was momentarily dizzy with success and didn't notice. I won't do it again. Gu Jingze glared at her, but he did not feel like his illness was about to flare up. Let's go home. Lin Che jogged after him. A swarm of tall and burly bodyguards gathered to clear a path for him. They opened the door for him with their imposing appearances as if he was an emperor on a private visit. Their auras were extraordinary. Looking at him, Lin Che felt that he was truly different from the rest. Gu Jingze, are you some big shot? Lin Che said, but whether or not you have money is none of my business since we'll be getting a divorce anyway. Gu Jingze laughed. It's good that you are aware of that. Lin Che got into his car. She looked at his perfect side profile and admired the attractive angle of his jaw. From the side, he looked like a flawless sculpture. The more she looked, the more she began to fall into a daze. Gu Jingze stole a glance and happened to see her legs spreading wide open, slightly exposing her white safety pants. Its outline was obvious to the eye. His brows furrowed. Can you sit more properly like a woman? Lin Che stiffened. She lowered her head and looked at her dress before quickly closing her legs. Seriously. How could she have forgotten that she was wearing a dress? Lifting her head, her eyes met Gu Jingze's disapproving ones. She said in a nonplussed manner, as if you've never seen it before. Gu Jingze's face darkened. Can you bear some semblance of a woman? Will you not divorce me if I bear some semblance of a woman? She retorted fiercely, rendering Gu Jingze speechless. This was the first time a woman dared to yell at him. He was momentarily unable to adapt. Miss Lin, I just hope that our marriage will be more comfortable for the both of us. Shouldn't you take some responsibility for this too? After all, this entire incident arose because of you. Ha! You're speaking as if I forced you to pull my clothes off that night. The only thing I did was make you hard. I didn't make you strip the clothes off me. Gu Jingze's face appeared even more serene. But I remember that you enjoyed it greatly. You also hugged me and wouldn't let go until the end. I even remember that you loved biting your fingers when you got aroused. Your face also got so red that it looked like blood could drip out of it. Lin Che's face immediately reddened. Under his unwavering gaze, the heat in her face made her feel like she was burning. I don't remember at all. It must be your imagination. I clearly recall it being very painful, because it was your first time you knew nothing and you weren't gentle at all. Huh. All of a sudden, his face came close and appeared right before her. As he looked at her reddened face, he felt that she was tender like this, her feminine charm radiating off gently. There was a hint of mischief in his deep and dark eyes. Lin Che quickly leaned back as she watched his gaze that was so deep it was like an abyss. The narrowed distance caused the air in the entire car to suddenly heat up. It was as if something suspicious was fermenting. The warmth of his body spread towards her and made her bones resonate at the appearance of a true man. See? Just like this. He smiled as he looked at the color of her face. Do you want me to take a picture and show you? Lin Che slapped his hand away and sat back in her seat. They each looked out the window like nothing happened. However, the heat in the car was still palpable and continued to increase slowly in intensity. Lin Che's face was burning to the extent that she did not dare turn to look at the man beside her. How could she forget? That was her first time, but she had given it away so carelessly and had been tormented so terribly. With her hand on her face, she thought despondently, was her face really that red? Then, the chauffeur broke the awkward air between the two people. "Sir, madam, we have arrived." Lin Che opened the car door in a hurry. However, her arm was suddenly pulled back by the man behind her. She looked back and said, "What are you doing?" Gu Jingze said, amused. "Why are you running away? Could it be that you're shy?" "Leave me alone." Lin Che pushed his hand away and walked quickly into the house. As he looked at her retreating figure, Gu Jingze shook his head. Gu Jingze got out from the car slowly and leisurely. He was in a pleasant mood as he watched Lin Che flee for her life. Lin Che had merely walked a few steps when she saw an unfamiliar woman standing by the door. She was an elegant beauty and instantly brought to mind the 4 words, "well-bred young lady." Lin Che froze. Behind her, Gu Jingze stopped in his tracks and looked at the woman. He called out in a slightly hoarse voice, "Huiling." Mo Huiling was his girlfriend. Once she saw the woman, Lin Che seemed to understand what type of woman Gu Jingze truly liked. With her long hair swaying in the wind, her bright and beautiful face made her look exactly like a well-bred young lady from afar. She was clothed in a white suited jacket. Underneath that was a gray dress. She looked bright, intelligent, graceful, and generous. It was obvious with one look that she was a fair and wealthy beauty, through and through. Lin Che halted momentarily, uncertain of what she should do. She could only look at them in a daze, aware that she definitely looked very silly herself. With Gu Jingze standing beside her, they looked like a perfect match. She was obviously a stylish and fashionable woman. Naturally, she was not as clueless as Lin Che. If Gu Jingze stood together with her, they would definitely be the golden couple in everyone's eyes. They would be the subject of everyone's envy. When she turned around and saw Lin Che, her delicate chin raised slightly, and she looked at Lin Che with an arrogant expression. After staring at Lin Che for some time, she then turned her gaze to rest on Gu Jingze. Upon seeing the loaded situation, Lin Che could only glance at Gu Jingze briefly and say sensibly, "Oh, my clothes haven't been washed. I'll go wash them now." She then ran into the house hurriedly. Gu Jingze's brow furrowed as he watched her run away, flustered. He turned his head to look at Mo Huiling. Mo Huiling snorted. She pointed at Lin Che as she said, "What kind of woman did you bring home?" Gu Jingze said, "Did you read the email that I sent you? I can't help that things have already progressed to this stage. I know that you'll be angry and sad, but all of this has become a reality. I didn't have a choice. This was a marriage that I had to accept. Because my family thinks that she can make my illness better, they wanted me to marry her. I could only agree to it. I know that it might be very difficult for you to accept it now since I just informed you, but this is the reality. If you leave me because of this, I will accept it. Hate me, scold me, ask me for compensation. I will accept all of it. I betrayed our promise, so I'll accept anything you want me to do." Mo Huiling's shoulders were trembling. "I don't want to hit you. How could I bear to? But I just want to ask you, what am I going to do? In actual fact, strangers ours who've only known each other for a few days. Before the marriage, I didn't even know her name. My family forced me to marry her. I really had no choice. When there's an opportunity in the future, I'll divorce her." At this, Mo Huiling lifted her head and looked at him, her eyes glistening with tears. "Really?" Gu Jingze nodded. "Both of us agreed upon this from the start." Gu Jingze and Mo Huiling were childhood sweethearts. It was only because he suddenly fell ill and could no longer touch women that they could not be together. The Gu family wanted him to find a woman who could bear him children, but whenever Mo Huiling was around him, he would develop rashes and his illness would worsen. Mo Huiling had tried all methods from not using cosmetics to taking medicine. However, terrible rashes would still develop across his body. Mo Huiling had thought that she would one day be together with Gu Jingze. After all, he was so stubborn and obstinate. However, she had not expected that this woman would one day appear out of nowhere. Sorry, Huiling. I won't blame you if you find happiness elsewhere. How can I leave you? Jingze, I've been with you for so many years. If I leave you, I wouldn't know how to live on. From a young age, my dream has been to marry you one day. Gu Jingze's heart softened as he looked at her. All right, Huiling, I just don't want you to suffer. At this, Mo Huiling smiled. I believe that you'll divorce her eventually. I'll wait for you. Upon seeing Lin Che seated there with a poor complexion, the maid thought that she was angry and walked over to her. She said carefully, Madam, Sir and Miss Mo are childhood friends, so they are very close. However, their relationship is unstained. Nothing has happened between the two of them. Oh? Lin Che knew that the maid had misunderstood. She waved her hands frantically and said, I didn't mean that. Of course, their relationship should be good, but have they known each other for a very long time? The maid said, Yes. They knew each other from the moment they were born. For such a long time, Lin Che thought. Then, their relationship must be great, Lin Che said. The maid said, Yes, Miss Mo has a bad temper, but Sir always gives in to her. It has been like this since they were young, but I think that this is no different from a relationship between siblings. Madam, it's better if you don't get angry. After all, you know that Sir has a strange illness and can't touch women at all. Naturally, Lin Che knew. Deep down, she truly felt that Gu Jingze was in an unfortunate circumstance. The woman he loved was right beside him, but he could not touch her. She did not know how he had endured it for all these years. Lin Che was not angry. She was just a little curious. She said to the maid, It's all right. I'm not angry and just wanted to ask. I can understand Gu Jingze. I won't get angry. Upon seeing Lin Che like this, the maid's impression of her became even more favorable. She smiled and said, Madam, you're the most beautiful woman I've met, and you even have a good personality. You and Sir get along so well. You'll definitely live happily in the future. Lin Che was not angry. From the beginning, they had agreed that this was a marriage by contract, and Gu Jingze had been honest and straightforward with her. Thus, there was no reason to be angry. Lin Che said, But if the relationship between Gu Jingze and Miss Mo is so good, why can't they get the approval from their families? The maid said, Miss Mo is the third young miss of the Mo family. But old master never liked her because he doesn't approve of the Mo family's conduct. Nevertheless, he was never strongly opposed to it. However, Sir suddenly fell ill. The family had always hoped that he would find someone to bear him children, but Sir was too stubborn and refused to leave Miss Mo. Miss Mo also kept making a fuss and did not want Sir to marry any other woman. That's why the situation stagnated. When the maid saw Lin Che listening intently, she smiled and said, Everything is fine now. Sir and Madam are a great match. Madam is so beautiful and Sir is so handsome. The little master who you will give birth to in the future will definitely be the best-looking man. Lin Che almost spat out blood. Of course, she did not want to have children with Gu Jingze. In any case, it was impossible. The last time, he had only touched her because she had drugged him. She was definitely not the antidote to heal his illness. Lin Che found it strange. Why did they not find more women to try curing his illness? But after thinking about it, she understood. Perhaps it was because Gu Jingze was deeply in love with Mo Huiling, so he did not want to touch any other woman. But now, because of her, Lin Che ate while she ruminated. Then, Gu Jingze walked into the house. He saw Lin Che wolfing down the food as she sat on the couch with her legs raised in a terribly uncouth fashion. Gu Jingze frowned and said, "Can you be more hygienic?" Lin Che raised her head. "I've washed my hands. How is that not hygienic?" Gu Jingze looked at her eating with her bare hands that had crumbs all over them. His frown deepened. Lin Che lifted her head and said, "Yes, not everyone is as well-bred as Miss Mo. You're right, I have no manners even when I'm eating. My mother passed away when I was in my teens. My father never treated me as his daughter, and my stepmother wanted to sell me off for money, so no one taught me any manners or etiquette. However, not everyone has time to bother with manners and etiquette like you people. To me, living is already respecting myself. That's why I don't know about all these things, and I'll never be Miss Mo." Looking at Gu Jingze, she said, "Okay, if you're uncomfortable watching me eat, I'll try not to eat in front of you. Then again, you probably won't be home often." Since he had Miss Mo, he probably preferred to spend more time with her instead of staying at home with Lin Che all the time. Gu Jingze snorted. "That's right. Hailing is indeed a well-bred young lady. At least she doesn't eat with her bare hands like you do." As he said this, his gaze rested on her greasy hands. Lin Che looked down. She did feel a little embarrassed, but she was also used to this and did not mind it. Lin Che quickly licked her fingers one by one. The tip of her tongue was extremely flexible. It was torturous to live with this kind of man. It was no wonder people said that it was important to marry within your own class. She and Gu Jingze were the perfect negative example. She lifted her head and looked at Gu Jingze only to discover that his gaze had heated up. He was staring fixedly at her face, his eyes red. He looked as if he was about to tear her into pieces. What had she done to anger him again? Lin Che blurted, "Don't be angry. I won't eat in front of you again." She had no choice either. Habits could not be changed so quickly. Of course, his Miss Mo was definitely elegant and gracious, but she was not her. She smiled sheepishly, but Gu Jingze simply walked away gloomily without a word. "Hey, She looked at him in confusion. "Don't casually stick your tongue out to lick your fingers." He suddenly looked back at her, his eyes staring at her fingers. "Especially in front of the opposite sex." "What?" Lin Che quickly looked down at her own fingers and wiggled them. She was confused and did not know what he meant. Gu Jingze shook his head speechlessly and thought that the woman was truly dumb. Soon afterward, Lin Che ran into the bedroom after washing up. Gu Jingze was seated on the couch with his legs crossed, one ankle over his other knee. His freshly scented self looked elegant and composed. With the light beaming down on him, the angles of his body appeared even sharper. He had a casual disposition, but he looked good no matter how he sat. She stopped in her tracks to look at him before quietly walking further in. However, he suddenly called after her, "Miss Lin." Lin Che stopped walking before looking back at him. "We see each other so often, you don't have to keep calling me Miss Lin. It's quite uncomfortable." Gu Jingze paused and finally nodded. "Okay, Lin Che." He looked at her meaningfully. "What happened today won't happen again in the future. She really doesn't come here often. It's probably because she hasn't fully adjusted her emotions." "Oh, it's fine. In any case, it's understandable for her to be angry. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to tolerate it either. I would definitely come over to investigate my enemy, so I completely understand. Just focus on your relationship with her." Gu Jingze raised his eyebrows. As he watched her clarify herself in a flustered manner, his gaze deepened before he lowered his head again. The next day, Lin Che followed Yu Min to the venue for her audition. Yu Min said coolly to her, "This television series is a mythological drama based on a novel, so it has a hefty background. The male lead is Gu Jingyu, and the female lead is Mu Feiran. The role you're trying out for is a supporting role as a ghost hunter. It's one of the important roles, so it'll definitely be good for you to get the role." Lin Che nodded her head in understanding. Although she felt that such an important role would not usually be given to her, she seldom got opportunities to audition for such roles. Naturally, she looked forward to the audition. "I'm grateful to the company for giving me this opportunity," she said. Yu Minmin gave her a meaningful look. "There's no need to say that. You fought hard for it yourself. To be honest, I didn't have high hopes for you. But since you're already here, I hope you'll do well." Lin Che nodded. "Okay, I'll work hard, Sister Yu." Lin Che was already accustomed to these types of auditions. She had specially put on a short blue dress and primed herself. Looking fresh and clean, she stood and waited at the venue. Next, Lin Che. The director and staff heard the name from inside and started looking through her portfolio. As an unknown actress, she was definitely refreshing. However, such an important role was not typically given to new actresses. It appeared as though she was just another actress that some investor had squeezed into the lineup. The director thought this to himself despondently as he casually took a cigarette. However, when he raised his head, he instantly saw a girl who looked honest and sincere. She lowered her head and bowed respectfully. When she looked up, there was a slight blush to her face. Her eyes were like lakes that rippled slightly, and when the light shone on her white ceramic-like face, her fluttering eyelashes left faint shadows on her lower lids. Her lips were like the petals of cherry blossoms. They could make one drool with desire and create disturbances within hearts. In this industry where plastic surgery had become a custom, it was truly rare to see a young actress who was naturally beautiful in appearance. He quickly looked down and flipped through her portfolio. Lin Che, 23, female. She was a true blue rookie actress. Some of the roles she had taken up did not even have names. However, her ethereal appearance as she stood there was truly unforgettable. The entire room quietened. It was as if one could have heard a pin drop in the silence. Everyone's attention was on the ethereal-looking girl on stage. Decked out in blue, she made one feel as if they had fallen deep into a lake where they kept drifting without any chance of escape. Lin Li was also here for an audition. When she pulled open the curtain and saw Lin Che in the front, her brow furrowed. Looking at everyone's reactions, she could not help but think bitterly that Lin Che looked flashy today. Since when had this lass grown to look so exquisite? Lin Che drew in a long breath and recited a passage that she was holding in her hands. When she finished, she felt that she had not done particularly well and was a little unconfident. She looked up to meet everyone's gaze and felt even more embarrassed. In her heart, she thought apprehensively that she'd messed up again this time. But then again, she had not expected anything from this. During the few years after graduating from the drama academy, she had gone for countless auditions like these. She'd gotten used to failure a long time ago. "Director, I've finished my performance." "Okay." The director was looking through her portfolio and seemed to not see her. Lin Che walked out quietly. Unexpectedly, Yu Minmin walked over to her before she left. She sounded pleasantly surprised, yet shocked at the same time as if she could not believe it. "Lin Che, you've been chosen for the role of the ghost hunter, Chen Yihan. Go back and prepare for it. The company will make the contractual arrangement on your behalf." Lin Che thought that she had heard wrong and did not respond for a long time. She had been chosen? It was too shocking. She initially didn't have a lot of hope, but she now felt as if she had won the lottery. "Thank you, Sister Minmin. I'll definitely go back and prepare well." Yu Minmin looked at her meaningfully again before smiling. "Okay, go back and prepare." She really had not expected to be chosen this time. The role was a critical one, and there were many candidates trying for the role while she was just a rookie. Lin Che was in a fantastic mood when she went home. However, the moment she stepped into the house, she immediately saw a woman inside seated on the couch that Gu Jingze usually sat on. Mo Huiling's actually here, Lin Che thought to herself. Although she was in a fake marriage with Gu Jingze, it was still felt awkward meeting Mo Huiling. She hoped that he would choose some other place for their dates in the future. This was too awkward. However, since Mo Huiling was seated there, she still smiled and greeted her. "Hi, you're here. I'll go in first. You guys go ahead. Mo Huiling stood up and snorted. She looked at Lin Che and said, "Why are you running away and avoiding me? We'll have to meet sooner or later." What? Lin Che was dumbfounded. But, very quickly, she detected a slight chill in Mo Huiling's gaze. It was obvious. Mo Huiling looked at Lin Che and said, "Although Jingze told me yesterday that he was merely forced into this marriage by his family, I don't know what method you used to gain the Gu family's approval. However, I still want to make things clear to you. I've been together with Jingze from a young age. We're childhood sweethearts and have always been in a loving relationship. Your little tricks won't be able to separate us. I hope you'll understand your position. I know that Jingze is nice, but he has reputation and status. It'd be best for you to understand that he's out of your reach." Instantly, Lin Che's favorable impression of her vanished without a trace. As she looked at the elegant and gracious woman before her, Lin Che laughed sarcastically and said, "Since Miss Mo has already said that you trust him completely, then there's no need for you to tell me any of this. You can rest assured, Miss Mo, I didn't want to marry him either. It was a complete accident. I won't interfere with your relationship. As you said, you trust one another. Please continue trusting him." Upon seeing Lin Che's nonchalance, Mo Huiling's face darkened. "Yes, I trust him, but I can't neglect the fact that he's so outstanding. So many women have been interested in him. You're not the first or the last. Miss Lin, I am warning you to be careful. Jingze loves me and only me. He won't be moved by any other woman. If I find out that you've done something to him, I won't spare you." Lin Che snorted. Mo Huiling stood up arrogantly. Dressed in luxurious clothes from head to toe, she shone brightly. Combined with her haughty expression, she appeared even more superior. Don't think that you can truly have Jingze just because you married him. I'll tell him directly that I don't like him being with you. I'll tell him to leave this place and live with me. Even if you're married, you won't ever see him again. All of your ulterior motives will be useless. How did you become his wife when I am the one he loves?" Although Mo Huiling had a haughty expression on her face, Lin Che could tell that she felt angry and helpless. Although this woman was distasteful, she was, in fact, a pitiful woman. Perhaps it was a shortcoming of these wealthy families that marriage was not by choice. They were all victims. She, indeed, pitied Mo Huiling. But if she was so sad, why did she have to hide it? Why couldn't they fight it out once? As for Mo Huiling, she came to Linen, Lin Che, instead of kicking up a fuss with Gu Jingze. Lin Che thought to herself, she did not know that things were so complicated. Otherwise, she would not have agreed easily. Who knew that he still had a girlfriend who loved him so deeply? Lin Che said directly, "If he ends up living with you, I'll be happy for the both of you too. You can tell him to do that." Mo Huiling truly hated Lin Che. The more she looked at her, the more she disliked her, especially since a person of such lowly status like her was surprisingly Gu Jingze's wife. Lin Che was quite beautiful. Her skin was white and soft, and she was young. While she looked honest, people like these were the most scheming. Mo Huiling had to admit that her face was a bit too attractive. She could not be at ease by letting Gu Jingze continue living with Lin Che. Mo Huiling glared at her fiercely before lifting her head and leaving. When Gu Jingze returned home that night, the house was extremely quiet. Gu Jingze asked, "Where's Madam?" The maid immediately replied, "Madam is in the bedroom." Gu Jingze walked towards the bedroom. He did not expect to see the sight of Lin Che's completely naked back greeting him when he pushed the doors open. She was changing. When the door opened, Lin Che got shocked, and she almost jumped up in surprise. "Ah, Gu Jingze!" she yelled. It would have been all right if she had only shouted, but the problem was that she turned around in surprise. Now, It was not just her back that he had seen completely. Two soft lumps of flesh seemed to flash before his eyes, causing him pause. Lin Che frantically covered her chest, and as she looked at the man in front of her, she said weakly, "Gu Jingze, do you know how to knock?" Gu Jingze stared at her snowy white skin and her narrow shoulders. They looked pale and tender. His heart thumped and he shifted his gaze slightly. Drawing in a breath, he said, "This seems to be my bedroom." Lin Che froze. On second thought, this was indeed his house. But that was not right. Lin Che said, "Hey, although it's your house, have you forgotten that we're married? After marriage, at least half of the house belongs to me. Until we get a divorce, I have a right to live in this house. In other words, this is also my bedroom." Gu Jingze turned his head coolly. "It seems that you haven't forgotten that we're married, so it's all right even if you don't cover up like that." Lin Che lowered her head, curious about the chill wafting across her body. She had forgotten to put on her clothes. She frantically pulled on her clothes and draped them on quickly as she turned around. However, Gu Jingze had already walked further in as if nothing had happened. He opened the wardrobe, took out a folder, and left quietly. Lin Che stood there, watching him leave before taking a deep breath. She blinked a few times and thought to herself, "This Gu Jingze. Mo Huiling mentioned that she would not permit him to live here, but here he is again." As Lin Che walked out, she adjusted her clothes uncomfortably. Gu Jingze was looking down at his documents. As if he had not seen her, he kept his head down. Lin Che walked over to him. She was unsure about how to approach him. After all, this person had many shortcomings. He might criticize her again if she said a word. When she was just about to leave, the person who had been looking down at his documents the entire time finally said something. "What do you have to say?" Shocked, Lin Che patted her chest as she looked at Gu Jingze. She thought to herself, why is this person always doing things all of a sudden and putting her at a loss about what to do? "So you knew I was here?" "Since you didn't look at me at all, I thought you didn't hear me, so I wanted to leave without disturbing you," Lin Che explained as she walked over to him. Gu Jingze raised his head to look at her. With his chin resting on one hand and his eyes hazy under the light, he was so charming that he could make anyone's heart skip a beat. "I can smell your scent," he explained. Lin Che froze. Her face heated up slightly. Did he not know that his words sounded a little intimate? Gu Jingze looked at the flushed red color on her white cheeks. Perplexed, he said, "Why is your face so red?" "Why? Are you sick?" "Why?" "Yao, worried as you start about your kiesir. You're the one who is sick. No, you were sick to begin with. You forgot your medicine again." Lin Che denied. "My face isn't red at all." Lin Che felt like she had been completely exposed and even taken advantage of. Lin Che thought to herself, she was really no match for him. Although she considered herself a professional actress, she seemed to behave less professionally than he did from the beginning. He had clearly separated business from personal matters. She believed that perhaps it was because he had someone he loved that he was able to separate his feelings. Compared to her, Gu Jingze was truly professional. The fact that he had no reaction to her naked body showed that he did not treat her as a woman at all. He was completely devoted to Mo Huiling. She could not lose to him, Lin Che thought. Gu Jingze watched the tiny changes in her expression. He raised his head again and asked, "You didn't answer me. Do you have something to say to me?" How did he know that Lin Che had something to say before she even spoke? Lin Che walked over to him and said, "Nothing much. I just wanted to know why you're home again." Gu Jingze furrowed his brow in confusion. "Can I come home?" Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze's honest expression. She thought to herself perplexedly, has Mo Huiling not tell him that she did not want him to live here? When she saw Gu Jingze wearing a doubtful expression again, Lin Che waved her hands frantically. She could not get between him and Mo Huiling. Since Mo Huiling had not said anything, she decided it was best Mo Huiling told him herself. Lin Che refused to get herself involved in their affairs. She shrugged her shoulders and said, I think you don't need to stay here all the time. After all, so many people live separately after marriage. Furthermore, you're so busy. Staying here all the time isn't good for you. Gu Jingze squinted his eyes at her. Why? I just think that Miss Mo definitely feels upset about you constantly being with me. It's better if you don't live here. Gu Jingze's eyebrows twitched. He looked at her and said, I thought we agreed previously that this is my house. If I don't live here, where will I live? He was right, Lin Che thought. This was his house. She had no right to chase him out. All right, if you put it like that, I can be the one to move out, Lin Che said sincerely. Gu Jingze's complexion seemed to dim slightly. He stopped staring at her and fiddled with the documents in his hands. If you do that, my family will definitely get suspicious. They'll wonder if there are problems with our relationship, and they may even suspect that we're in a fake marriage. If we don't live together, they'll definitely intervene and make sure we live together. Wouldn't that be more troublesome? ... His reasoning makes sense, Lin Che thought. Naturally, she had not thought as much as he did, but if she really tried to think of other ways, she believed she was able to think of a good excuse. It's all because I'm afraid that your girlfriend will be angry. If you're with me all the time, she'll definitely brood over the matter. Imagine how much that will affect your relationship. That's enough. Gu Jingze stood up abruptly. There was something dark in his expression, one that intimidated Lin Che momentarily, leaving her momentarily speechless. With the documents in his hand, he walked out. As he brushed past Lin Che, he said, Just play your role as Mrs. Gu. What happens between me and other women is none of your business. After Gu Jingze left with his things, Lin Che muttered to herself despondently, Fine. It's all my fault for being so nosy. The goodness of a person is of no consequence to the ungrateful. Since you can't understand my goodwill, I'll keep my hands off your matters from now on. Soon after, Gu Jingze returned to the guest room. He put down his folder before holding on to the table in an attempt to calm himself down. However, images of the earlier scene replayed in his mind and made him feel irritated. As he breathed in deeply, he heard his phone ringing. The screen indicated that it was Mo Huiling. Huiling, you're looking for me? Yes, Jingze. Can you come over to my house for a bit? I'm alone and bored. I have something to talk to you about too. Gu Jingze said, Why? You have something to say to me? Yes, I've wanted to say it for a long time. Come over. I want to tell you in person. Mo Huiling sounded like she had something special to say. Gu Jingze could not guess what it was. After being with Mo Huiling for so many years, he knew that she was a little petty. She was ultimately the young lady of a rich family and had been pampered from a young age. Although she was accomplished, had good manners, and was highly educated, she had a bit of a temper. He thought that it was normal and had always given in to her. So no matter how unyieldingly or casually she spoke to him, he was able to accept it. Gu Jingze arrived at her house in no time. Mo Huiling lived alone. Her apartment had an air of feminine elegance that always made him feel comfortable. When Gu Jingze entered, he saw Mo Huiling seated in the living room. She was clearly awashed in melancholy as she sat there, looking a little withered and lonely. Gu Jingze sighed before walking toward her. Huiling, why did you call me here? Mo Huiling raised her head to look at Gu Jingze before mumbling softly, Jingze, I know that you had no say in the marriage and that it wasn't your own decision, but I still feel a little upset. Naturally, Gu Jingze felt sympathetic, his heart softening when he saw her expression. When Mo Huiling looked at Gu Jingze, the lines of worry on her face made her look extremely miserable and helpless. I know I shouldn't feel upset, and that I also shouldn't trouble you. But when I think about how you have another woman with you all the time, I just can't bear it. Gu Jingze looked at her and sighed. I understand. It's my fault. I'm sorry for all of this, Huiling. I know that you're upset, but I really had no choice but to accede to my family's demands. My grandfather plays his cards well. I can't make a single misstep. Worried that Mo Huiling would feel pressured, Gu Jingzi did not tell her that his family was using her as a threat. I know. Mo Huiling raised her head, her eyes glistening. I understand you, and I'm willing to be by your side. I just hope that you can move out. Don't live with that woman. You have so many other properties. There's definitely somewhere you can live in. Let's live there together. I know that even so. We can't sleep on the same bed, but I just want to be by your side. I don't like that you're living with her. Gu Jingze froze, never expecting Mo Huiling to make such a request. It was a reasonable request, and he understood her. Knowing that he was living with Lin Che was worrying in itself. He had not told Mo Huiling that he had slept with Lin Che because he thought that it would never happen again. That incident was an accident, and he did not want to worry Mo Huiling even more. But alas, Mo Huiling was already worried. No other woman would find his sudden marriage acceptable. Even if they had grown up together and trusted one another, he now had a wife. Mo Huiling was a well-bred young lady who came from the atypical Mo family. They had instilled in her good etiquette and manners. Even if she did not marry him, she was definitely going to marry a man suitable for her, and no one was going to treat her unfairly. However, she had already sacrificed her dignity for him. But, Gu Jingze said calmly, I'll think about it. When Mo Huiling heard this, disappointment instantly showed on her face. That was all? Gu Jingze said, Huiling, I understand how you feel, and I know that you feel uncomfortable. That's why I said that if you're unhappy, you can leave and find happiness elsewhere. But I have my own concerns. I'll think about it. But for now, I can't make a hasty decision. But subconsciously, Gu Jingze did not like living together with any woman. After all, he was still ill. He felt uncomfortable even if it was Mo Huiling. As for Lin Che, he had no choice. He was trying hard to get used to her. But even if he had a choice, he had no intention to live with Mo Huiling. When Mo Huiling heard his last line, she reluctantly broke into a smile. You must keep your promise. As Gu Jingze left in the back of his car, he looked out the window with a grim expression. Mo Huiling was the only girl who he had a close relationship with. It was specifically because they had been together for so many years that she tolerated the many symptoms of his illness. They could not hold hands, kiss, or do anything that lovers could do, because the moment he touched her, he broke out in a rash. However, she continued to stay with him. He was greatly touched by this. During the many years they had been together, he was happy. Without a doubt, he wanted to marry her. However, he had suddenly slept with another woman. When Gu Jingze walked into the house, there was an aroma wafting through the air. It was nearly dawn, so the maids should have left long ago and returned to their chambers. If that was so, then it could only be. When he made a turn into the kitchen, he saw Lin Che seated at the bar counter. One of her legs was resting on another chair as she leaned herself against her knee. Her long and slender legs were pale and soft, and her skin was smooth and flawless. She was wearing only a pair of pants and a white tank top. In front of her was a hot bowl from which the aroma was emanating. Evidently, she was eating supper. But this position... Gu Jingze watched her pick up her chopsticks, twirl it around some noodles, and stuff it into her mouth as she started to eat heartily. He closed his eyes, exasperated. Lin Che. Immediately, Lin Che turned her head in surprise. When she saw Gu Jingze, she almost fell off her chair. Gu Jingze, why don't you make a sound when you walk? She yelled. She patted her chest and said, I thought there was a ghost. Gu Jingze said, You were cooking? He did not expect her to be able to cook, and it smelled pretty good too. Lin Che looked at her bowl of noodles. She nodded and said, Yes, yes. This great chef was cooking the most delicious food on earth, so she was eating instant noodles, and he even thought that it smelled good. Was it time for him to think about getting far away from this uncultured woman? Gu Jingzi said, So you don't know how to cook anything? Lin Che said, I boil water pretty well. I've never overcooked it. Gu Jingzi did not know how exactly this woman had grown up without learning how to do anything. Lin Che said, You probably haven't eaten considering how you're home so late. Want some? Lin Che pushed her bowl forward. Gu Jingzi looked at what was in the bowl. It looked quite good. There were vegetables, meat, and eggs. Together with the soup, it looked good enough to sell and was very appetizing. There's no need. I'm not hungry. As he said this, he licked his lips subconsciously. Gu Jingze stood there unmoving. When he felt Lin Che smile, he breathed in deeply and prepared to scold her. Eating so late isn't good for the stomach, he said. It's fine if done once in a while. I don't usually eat this late, but I'm in a good mood today, so I'm eating this to reward myself. She picked up some noodles and moved them closer until they were right in front of him. With a persuasive expression, she smiled in anticipation as she moved her chopsticks closer to his lips. The aroma excited his taste buds and started a riot in his stomach. He looked at her in exasperation. Okay. I'll eat it. Get away from me, he said as a compromise. She quickly stuffed the noodles into his mouth. He chewed a few times, finding it actually quite tasty. Too salty, he remarked after swallowing. Although he said this, he ate bite after bite. Slowly and elegantly, he finished the entire bowl. She stared at him, dumbfounded. Gu Jingze merely raised his head and looked at her coolly. Why? Lin Che said. Have you never eaten instant noodles before? Why did you eat it as if you were eating a delicacy? I think all that's left for you to finish is the soup. Yes. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che's expression and asked in a confused manner. So what? Lin Che said. No, it's nothing. It's just that to have never eaten instant noodles before, your standard is really low. Instant noodles are one of life's most delicious enjoyments, and you almost missed it. Luckily, you have me. Otherwise, you would have definitely regretted it to death. Gu Jingze watched Lin Che speak with an exaggerated expression. He looked at her calmly and said, This is junk food. Delicious junk food, Lin Che corrected him. Gu Jingze shook his head and looked at Lin Che silently. Lin Che patted her stomach and said, Now that I've eaten my fill and in a good mood, I'm going to bed. Gu Jingze looked at her. It looks like you're in a really good mood. Lin Che said, Of course. I'm going to play the role of the third female lead soon. Even though it's the third female lead, the role appears through the entire series, and it's a very popular series. In the future, I'm going to be famous and successful. How can I not be in a good mood? As Lin Che said this, she stood there happily and looked proud. Gleefully, she placed her hands on his shoulders. Gu Jingze frowned. He turned his head to the side and looked at her hand. However, she seemed to not be aware of herself and continued to show off. I never thought that I, Lin Che, would get my big break one day. It's a pity that Lin Li is the second female lead. I don't know if I have any scenes with her. I hope I don't. I'm afraid that I'll puke when I see her. Gu Jingze swept his eyes across her face, but his gaze still landed on her errant hand in the end. He let out a dry cough, raised his head, and looked at Lin Che somberly. As if she suddenly remembered something, Lin Che looked down. Oh no. Sorry, I forgot. She frantically patted Gu Jing's clothes as if she was smoothing out the wrinkles. Thereafter, she looked at Gu Jing's, who did not seem too uncomfortable. Chewing on her fingertips, she said sheepishly, "I'm sorry. I'm a loud and crass person. That's why I said that I might make you feel uncomfortable if we lived together." As if he had thought of something, he looked at Lin Che and said, "So you still hope that I'll move out?" Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze as she said seriously, "Yes. We agreed that we would establish a mutually beneficial relationship during our marriage, so you can rest assured. Even if you live together with Miss Mo, I'll help you cover it up. You're probably busy most of the time, too. I'll use that as an excuse if your family members suddenly come over. I can say that you went out, perhaps for a business trip or for a meeting. I have so many excuses. As long as you come back sometimes, it'll be fine. Anyway, if you want to leave with Miss Mo, just go. Don't worry about your family finding out. I'll definitely help you smooth it over." Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. His gaze was deep, secretive, and contemplative, yet indifferent. Under his gaze, Lin Che felt her heart heating up. She felt that his gaze was too profound, as if he could read a person's thoughts. His gaze was a bit too sensuous. Suddenly, Gu Jingze said, "I won't move out." He continued, "Moving out will be way too much trouble. And then there's still a huge problem. I don't trust your acting skills. With your stupidity, you definitely won't be able to cover up for me properly. If I move out and leave you here alone to deal with it, it's the same as leaving my problem in your hands. I'm not used to letting people decide my life, especially to people of questionable intelligence like you." Lin Che said angrily, "If you have something to say it properly. Don't insult me for no reason. What's wrong with my intelligence?" But it was understandable for him to not trust her. After all, this concerned the safety of the woman he loved, so he definitely felt a lot of stress and could not easily trust others, especially her. Lin Che could not help but think that the conflict between the two of them was like something from a novel. She was the evil second female lead in the novel, the one who ruined the relationship between the two leads and became a hindrance. With a calm expression, Gu Jingzi walked towards the door. "The conclusion is that you don't have to waste your time trying to chase me out. For now, we're definitely going to live our married life together. It'd be best for you to get used to it and think about how to play the role of Mrs. Gu properly. Stop entertaining nonsensical thoughts." Lin Che never expected him to think this badly of her. "I'm doing this for your own good. I just don't want to see lovers get separated." Gu Jingze could not help but stop in his tracks. He sneered. "How thoughtful of you." Missing the chilling tone in his words, she said nonchalantly, "Of course. We agreed on it, and I'm a person who's considerate towards other people." Gu Jingze's face darkened. Not wanting to look at Lin Che any longer, he headed upstairs directly. The next day, Lin Che didn't see Gu Jing's when she woke up in the morning. Perplexed, she asked, "Where is Gu Jing's?" The maid replied, "Sir didn't sleep well last night, so he left early in the morning." Lin Che thought to herself, "This person is obviously uncomfortable living with her, but he still insists on doing so." Sure enough, the power of love was noble. In order to protect Miss Mo from harm, he could really tolerate anything. Thinking of it that way, she began to pity Gu Jingze. But during the next few days, Gu Jingze did not come back at all. Lin Che thought to herself, was it because Mo Huiling had said something that affected him, which prevented his return? If that was the case, it was probably good for the both of them. After all, they were still not used to each other after such a long time. Living together indeed made both of them uncomfortable. But why did she feel slightly uneasy? When she pictured him with a woman like Mo Huiling, she just felt gloomy. It was definitely because Mo Huiling was too unpleasant. She did not want to see Mo Huiling get what she wanted. Filming for the television series was going to begin soon. Lin Che was to play the role of an upright yet evil Chen Yihan. The first filming site was in B City's filming studio, so on the day filming began, they gathered there. The sign on the door had the name of the series, Swords of Love, written on it. The novel had been insanely popular when it was released, so there was a lot of hype over the series even before filming had begun. Anticipation was further heightened because the male lead was Gu Jingyu. The opening party was to be held there, and Lin Che was there to attend it. However, Lin Che did not know why she had suddenly become famous. Everyone in the production team seemed to know that the role of Chen Yi-han had been given to a rookie actress and that she was this rookie actress. Everyone on set was a senior to her, so Lin Che could only walk around with a glass of wine and propose a toast to everyone. After some time, she felt her head begin to heat up. Then, she heard someone say that Mu Feiran had arrived. She was the female lead of the series and the most popular young actress in the mainland. When she entered, most of the attention shifted to her. She was followed by a few assistants and managers, commanding attention wherever she went. As Lin Che watched her, she really felt that Mu Feiran was quite beautiful. It was the first time she was so close to such a huge celebrity. Lin Che marveled at how she was indeed a huge celebrity. She had so many fans outside supporting her, and wherever she went, there was a line of people waiting upon her. Without a doubt, she was the center of attention. But then, she saw Lin Li walk out in a pastel yellow dress. With the wind blowing at her, the dress fluttered slightly and made Lin Li look refreshing and pleasant. Immediately, some people went up to her to initiate a conversation. After all, Lin Li was quite popular. Although she was not as famous as Mu Feiran, she had just started to gain recognition and her future was bright. However, she did not command as much attention as Mu Feiran. A while later, she heard someone announce Gu Jingyu's arrival. From the moment he debuted, Gu Jingyu was insanely popular. Now, he was the newest male god that everyone knew about. When he stepped out of the celebrity van, the fans surrounding it started making a racket immediately. Their voices were piercing and deafening. The other celebrities in the van could not help but be envious. A top celebrity was a top celebrity. The moment he came out, a horde of people rushed after him. Beside Lin Che, Yu Minmin quickly said to her, "You and Gu Jingyu have quite a few scenes together. Remember to try to get close to him. Go over to him later and greet him. Otherwise, your scenes together may be awkward." With her mouth half open, Lin Che looked at Gu Jingyu from a distance. He was tall and slender, his lips red and teeth white. He looked a little like Gu Jingze. Naturally, she now knew that the two of them were, after all, biological brothers. But no matter what, Gu Jingze was her husband by name. She felt a little weird meeting his younger brother like this. Before she could finish that thought, Yu Minmin pushed her forward and said, "Go quickly." Lin Che's eyes immediately met Gu Jingyu's familiar eyes. "Ah, Senior Jingyu, hello." She could only summon up the courage to greet him. The director hurriedly introduced her to him, saying that the role of Chen Yihan was to be played by Lin Che. Gu Jingyu looked at this rookie actress with slight interest, noticing that although the expression on her clean and natural face was a little blank, her gaze was bright and clear. She looked very eye-catching thanks to her extraordinary pale skin. In this industry replete with beautiful women who were starting to look more and more alike, she gave off a very different vibe. He smiled as he said, "Hey, am I scary?" "Huh? No, no way." "Then why do you seem afraid to look at me?" He smiled sweetly as he stared at her round and astute eyes. Of course, Lin Che felt uncomfortable, especially when she thought about how her initial intention was to drug him. In the end, laughing dryly, she said, "No way. I'm just, a little uncomfortable. Oh, Senior Jingyu, please go ahead. I'll be leaving first." "Hey, why are you running away?" Perplexed, Gu Jingyu looked at the director beside him. "Hey, do I look very scary?" The director silently scolded this insensible lass. Of course not. So many people idolize you. Lin Che stood there trying to avoid Lin Li, not wanting to bump into her. It was good that although they were filming the same series, they did not have any scenes together. Lin Che was happy about this. She just wanted to film this series quietly and properly, without letting Lin Li affect her mood at all. When she managed to sneak out, Lin Che found a place to sit. Soon after, she heard a voice above her head. Hey, no one is sitting here, right? Lin Che raised her head to look. Gu Jingyu was here. With her mind blank, she said, Nope. Gu Jingyu sat down and crossed his legs. He exuded a slight feeling of unrestrained wildness. Although his face had the same cold lines as Gu Jingze's, it was different from Gu Jingze's stoniness and elegance. He looked much more uninhibited. In comparison, Gu Jingze was colder while he was more passionate. Lin Che lifted her glass and drank a mouthful of water. She caught sight of Lin Li looking at her and turned back to him. Gu Jingyu looked at her. You're playing the role of Chen Yihan? Lin Che nodded, looking respectful and mannerly. It was only right to behave this way towards a senior. So we will have scenes together. Yes, I read the script, Lin Che said. Gu Jingze gazed at her with a slight interest. Since we have scenes together, shouldn't we first get closer? Lin Che lifted her head slowly. But we don't have any love scenes. Gu Jingyu was momentarily speechless. He assessed Lin Che and said, It seems like you've already read the entire script. Yes. Gu Jingyu said, I happen to be confused about a few things, so why don't you help me? Lin Che blinked blankly in response. Actually, I only paid close attention to my scenes. Senior, if there's something you don't understand, I'll ask the producer to help you out. It won't be good if I distort the meaning of the scenes. Noticing that Gu Jingyu was continuing to look at her without a response, she asked again, Did I say something wrong? After all, it was also Lin Che's first time playing such an important role. She herself was worried about some parts that she did not understand. Thus, she was even more careful when dealing with a senior. Gu Jingyu chuckled upon seeing her worried expression. He shook his head and said, No, it's just... Thank you for being so thoughtful, but there's no need to trouble the producer. I'll get someone to come to my place and help me. Lin Che replied with an "Oh," before sitting down again. Sensing that Gu Jingyu's eyes were still on her, Lin Che lifted her head and asked carefully, Is there anything else you need, senior? No. Gu Jingyu laughed. It's the first time that I've met a rookie as diligent as you. When Lin Che heard this, she looked at him gratefully. Thank you for the compliment, I'm just learning from you. Gu Jingyu remarked, You must have received the role through your acting skills. I think you'll do well. Yes, if not for her acting skills, it would probably be very difficult for her to establish herself in this industry with her lack of intelligence and maturity. The fact that she could not even tell that he was intentionally giving her a chance to get closer to him made it such that describing her as intelligent an overstatement. Upon hearing this, Lin Che was incredibly touched. Really? Thank you for your encouragement, senior. I'll definitely work hard. It was definitely her acting skills that got her the role. Beside them, the director looked in surprise at Lin Che and Gu Jingyu sitting together. Perplexed, he said, What's up with Jingyu today? He usually doesn't like talking to anyone. The manager said lowly, I'm not sure either. He already reserved a room inside, but he suddenly ran over there to sit. Hey, is the person speaking to him a new actress? I haven't seen her before. Yes. We made an exception and gave her the role. Her image is not bad. She really suits this role. During the opening party, many pairs of eyes looked over at them. The big shot, Gu Jingyu, was known for being cold and indifferent to people. However, he was unexpectedly chatting with another actress in the series today. And this person was a rookie. Everyone looked curiously at this rookie. That rookie is not bad. I heard they made an exception for her. She looks really good. She leaves an impression. When Lin Li heard this, she shot an icy look at the people behind her. They immediately stopped talking. Everyone in the industry knew that Lin Li had a bad temper. They were afraid that she would cause trouble now. Although they were dissatisfied with Lin Li, her powerful background meant that no one could touch her. So even when Lin Li sat in the center, no one bothered to give her attention. Lin Li looked over angrily and thought to herself, "What is up with this little baig? Was she acquainted with a top celebrity like Gu Jingyu? It was impossible. How could someone like Lin Che have any interaction with Gu Jingyu? Something must have happened to force the two of them to sit together." However, the usually indifferent Gu Jingyu sat there looking like he was having a great conversation with her. It made Lin Li jealous. She felt even more uncomfortable when she saw that everyone was paying attention to that little Bai Kim Rao because of Gu Jingyu. This Lin Che is doing it on purpose. She must have actively grouped up with Gu Jingyu. This little Bainchar definitely has some tricks up her sleeve. The opening party continued. As Lin Che walked past the corridor leading to the washroom, she caught sight of Lin Li. Lin Che. She looked Lin Che up and down, thinking she looked different now, as if there was something more to her. She seemed to be more mature or charming. Whatever the case, she no longer felt like a child, but more like a woman. She sneered and said, "I advise you to leave this production team." Lin Che looked at her coldly. "Why must I leave? If you feel uncomfortable, you can leave." Lin Li snorted. "Keep being stubborn, Lin Che. Do you know what Qin Qing likes most about me? Do you know why he will never be interested in you? He likes my feminine charm the most. He won't fall in love with you because you should go look in the mirror. If you don't have money to get plastic surgery, I can lend you some. But you're in the wrong for resorting to tricks, to seducing everyone when you don't have a beautiful face." Lin Che furrowed her brow as she glared at her. "What do you mean, Lin Li?" Lin Li sneered. "Don't pretend. The whole team clearly saw you seducing Gu Jingyu just now. Do you still want to make excuses? Huh, look at yourself. How dare someone like you try to seduce Gu Jingyu? Do you know who he is? Do you think Gu Jingyu would be interested in someone like you? You better tell me clearly. Lin Li, don't put the blame on others just because you're not capable enough." After hearing Lin Li's words, Lin Che could not help but raise her voice. "What's happening?" At this moment, a voice called out from behind them. Lin Che turned her head only to see that Qin Qing was here. Her heart thumped. The moment she saw Qin Qing, her unyielding attitude crumbled completely. She could not help but feel bitter. As she looked at Qin Qing, her expression softened. However, Lin Li immediately went into Qin Qing's arms. "I was just warning her not to be too casual in this industry. The whole production team saw her seducing Gu Jingyu just now. Her reputation would be affected. However, she not only refused to listen to me, but she even shouted at me. I only wanted to give her advice because she's my younger sister." Qin Qing looked at Lin Che in surprise. "Gu Jingyu?" Lin Che felt a little disappointed. Although Qin Qing did not seem to believe it completely, he still continued to placate Lin Li, whose shoulders were trembling. "Lin Che, Gu Jingyu is the third young master of the Gu family. He's not just a celebrity. He's also the third successor to the Gu family, something you were probably unaware of. You should really stay away from anyone from the Gu family." Lin Che looked at Qin Qing speechlessly. Lin Li looked on from the side, enjoying Lin Che's pained expression. The look of arrogance on her face would have upset anyone. "You are entitled to your own thoughts. I still have something on, so you guys go ahead." Without looking back, Lin Che walked out to Qin Qing's appallment. After comforting Lin Li a little, he quickly chased after Lin Che. When Qingqing grabbed Lin Che's arm, she was already outside. The dark night sky made her face appear even paler. As he looked at her white and clean face, Qingqing seemed to discover for the first time that her face looked as white and soft as a peeled egg. It was almost translucent. Looking straight into her eyes, he said, "I'm serious, Lin Che. No matter what, the family in this country that no one can afford to offend is precisely the Gu family. Gu Jingyu is the third young master of the Gu family. Otherwise, with his status, how could he command the respect of so many people?" Lin Xia looked at Qingqing. Perhaps it was because she had drunk too much wine, but she had become much more impulsive. "What if I've already offended them?" Qingqing paled as he said, sighing, "It may be all right to offend Gu Jingyu, but his eldest brother is our current president, Gu Jingming. Also, his second brother is the mysterious business tycoon, Gu Jingze. These people are typically involved in dealings unimaginable to us, so in this country, it's better to stay away from the Gu family. Do you understand?" Lin Che felt her mind turn abuzz in chaos. "How could I be acquainted with them?" "It's fine. Just let me go. You should go back and look after Lin Li. There's no need to bother about me." "But..." As Qingqing looked at her, she pushed his hand away with her slender one. The softness of her palm made him space out momentarily. At that moment, Lin Li had already caught up to them from behind. Lin Che glanced at Lin Li one last time before laughing grimly. In a drunken stupor, she walked out, leaving worry on Qingqing's face as he watched her leave. However, Lin Li held him back and asked, "Was what you said just now true? Gu Jingyu has such a powerful background?" Qingqing continued to look in the direction Lin Che had left. "Yes, but it seems Lin Che has really grown up. She's no longer the little girl she was." Upon hearing this, Lin Li's delicate eyebrows knitted together. She did not want to hear him talking about Lin Che. In addition, she felt gloomy when she thought about how Lin Che had just been sitting with the usually cold Gu Jingyu. Now, she was burning with envy having learnt that Gu Jingyu was not merely a top celebrity but one with such a powerful background. How did Lin Che manage to catch Gu Jingyu's eye? When Lin Che stepped out of the tunnel, she bumped into someone. She lifted her head only to see Butler Hu. She could not help but smile. "Butler Hu, why are you here?" "Madam, you're drunk. I came to take you home." Hearing someone call her madam, she thought that it was even funnier. Could she even be considered a madame? She was brought home in a daze. When Gu Jingze heard the noise outside, he walked out the door in large strides. However, a soft and pliant body immediately fell on him the moment he reached the door. When Gu Jingze regained his bearings, he felt the tender flesh on her chest press against his own, causing his heart to quiver. But immediately after, he saw the 2 patches of red across her face. Her eyelashes fluttered lightly, and her lips were like delicate, juicy flower petals. Her ear was rubbing against his neck, tickling him. He froze as he fixed his eyes on her. What's going on? The reeking smell of alcohol assaulted his olfactory senses as though the woman had just gotten out of a tank of alcohol. "Hey." She looked at him. Gu Jingze was frowning deeply, and his shimmering eyes were deep and unfathomable. "Hubby, I'm home." Gu Jingze had no choice but to keep holding her up, for if he let her go, she would have definitely fallen straight to the ground. This only made the people around them feel apprehensive. They were afraid that Gu Jingze would harm the madam in his fit of anger. "Why did you drink so much?" he asked unhappily, before shooting a look at the people around them. They immediately retreated out of the room quietly and left the house for the 2 of them. "Oh, we had our opening party today. Hubby." Gu Jingze's face darkened when he felt her hand stroking him carelessly. "What did you call me?" Lin Che pushed her luck and put both her arms on him, naturally winding them around his neck. "Hubby, what else can I call you? You and I got our marriage license, so of course you're my hubby, right?" "Call me by my name," he said slowly. "Za." You. Gu Jingze stretched an arm across her body and lifted her up in his arms, carrying her into the bedroom. During the journey to the bedroom, Lin Che did not stay still by rubbing her face all over his chest. She was just like a kitten, and that made Gu Jingze feel even more frustrated. It was only after tossing her into bed that he felt the burning heat in his body subside a little. He had also just returned home and didn't have time to change his clothes. Discomforted by his tie, he reached up to loosen it slightly before looking at the disheveled woman on his bed. The sight of her lying there made her look a little pitiful, actually. Thus, he looked down and loosened her clothes a little to make her feel more comfortable. To his surprise, she grabbed his tie and yanked it, causing him to fall onto her soft body immediately after. With both hands beside her head, he looked at her up-close face really closely. Her cheeks were very exquisite. It was as if a hint of rouge had been applied to them, making her look like a ripe apple. With her mouth turned up, she stuck her tongue out slightly to lick her lips. The action caused a stir in his nether regions. Damn it! After muttering to himself, he felt something wrong near his chest. When he looked down, her chest was right below his. Her half-open collar exposed an obvious large patch of soft, white-skinned cleavage. Lin Che looked very thin, but the places that were supposed to be fleshy were indeed fleshy. It was Gu Jingze's first time looking at a woman's body at such a close distance and in such an awkward position. His gaze deepened, and with a turn of his body, he detached himself from her. Facing upwards, he laid on the other side of the bed while breathing deeply. He thought to himself, his body seemed to have gotten a lot better after changing his medicine recently. His illness did not flare up despite the fact that he had made contact with Lin Che. He turned his head. The woman beside him was staying still, for now. Lin Che's skin was indeed much fairer than any other girl's skin, despite not working hard at maintaining her fairness. Her natural paleness only complemented her good looks. She did not look unpleasant. Even with the flush of alcohol on her initially fresh face, it only added to her charm. She was like a freshly bloomed flower with a bright, enticing color. Then, Lin Che began to fidget again. What the hell? Why hasn't someone not switched on the air conditioner? She stretched her hand out to tug at her clothes. I'm going to die from the heat. Hearing her crass words, Gu Jingze wanted to leave her alone to die there. However, when he turned his head, he saw her clumsily tugging at her clothes in random directions, but it was a futile attempt to take them off. He pondered for a bit before walking back to her. Stop yanking, I'll help you. Despite saying so, he really had no idea where to put his hands. At his age, he still had not waited upon any woman. But in the end, he managed to pull her clothes up, and started off by pulling down the zipper at the back. Her flesh was immediately exposed. It was as if spring had arrived. Lin Che felt much more comfortable, and she quickly shrugged off her clothes as hard as she could. Her lace underwear appeared immediately. Lin Che. Did she have any regard for herself at all? Was she still aware that she was a woman? Lin Che, can you sober up a little? Gu Jingze walked over to her and pulled her up. His gaze subconsciously traveled to her flat abdomen. Shifting his gaze, he said through gritted teeth, Lin Che, sober up a bit. Lin Che lowered her head to look at Gu Jingze. Hubby, you're so fierce to me. Gu Jingze resisted his temper. I can be even fiercer. Hubby, do you really hate me? She looked at him, her pearly white teeth biting down on her bottom lip and causing it to turn slightly red. Strangely, Gu Jingze's heart skipped a beat. As he looked at her, he had initially wanted to ignore her, but he still cajoled her patiently. All right, I don't hate you. Really? He lifted Lin Che up in his arms. Using her arms and legs, Lin Che immediately leaned on his body. Gu Jingze discovered that uncharacteristically, he neither broke out in a rash, nor did he feel uncomfortable. He looked down at her head, which was resting on his shoulder, obediently. She sender da tu zaum. Wanner erneburger saiv. She had fallen asleep and her lashes were fluttering at an angle. At 168 centimeters tall, she could not really be considered petite. She was indeed taller than most girls. But right now, as she leaned against him, she appeared very small. It easily roused him to protect her. After putting her down, her arm hooked around his neck yet again. Her small face, completely flushed red from the alcohol, was very close to his. Her scent hit him in the face. A slight numbing sensation tingled throughout his body. "Hubby, I still want a hug." Gu Jingze said, "Do you know who you're speaking to?" "My hubby," she said in a daze. For a moment, Gu Jingze was actually speechless. "Be good and don't make a fuss." He wanted to push her away, but after stretching his arm out, he ended up just stroking her soft hair. "Give me a hug," she continued to mutter. With no other choice, he laid down and pulled her into his arms, allowing her small head to rest in the crevice of his neck. This only served to freeze him up as his body stiffened instantly. Just inches beneath his eyes, he heard Linche sighing and letting out sounds of pleasure. Not bad. Gu Jingze's body softened. Finally, Gu Jingze laid her down, only to hear her from behind him shouting with her eyes still closed, "I still want a hug." Gu Jingze frowned and massaged his forehead. This woman, why was she so clingy? And that was when a sudden thud came from the woman on the bed. Gu Jingze quickly turned his head and saw that Linche had already fallen onto the floor. Although the floor was thickly carpeted, it was obvious to the eye that Linche had fallen quite hard. Holding on to her forehead, she got up and stared blankly ahead. When she saw Gu Jingze, she frowned and asked in a confused tone, "What happened, Gu Jingze? Why am I here?" She was finally not calling him hubby. "You're drunk. If you're awake, then get up. Wash up before you sleep." Linche replied with an "oh," as if she had also thought of something. She crawled up from the ground in a bid to get back onto the bed. However, her body was limp and soft. After crawling up twice, she still did not manage to get on the bed. As he watched her acting clumsily, Gu Jingze felt as though he had exhausted a year's worth of patience before successfully convincing himself to walk over. Without any hesitation, he lifted Linche up in his arms. Linche stiffened and her face gradually turned red. Gu Jingze did not look at her, but he felt both of Linche's hands gripping the lapels of his jacket. Her long lashes fluttered slightly. He looked too handsome while carrying her. Unable to look at him calmly, she felt like she was about to suffocate. She could only grasp onto him as if she was deeply afraid that she would accidentally let out a sigh. While tugging on his lapels, Linche raised her chin and slowly inched closer towards his face. Gu Jingze lowered his head. As he looked into her clear eyes, the flames inside him almost burned his rationality completely away. His eyes paused as they stared at her bright red lips. Her lips were plump and full as if they were specially designed for kissing. The corner of his mouth twitched when a thought came to his head. However, he felt his body go rigid to the point where he could not move. It was as if his field of vision was confined only to her lips as he slowly inched downwards. But at this exact moment, blurg. Gu Jingze only felt a surge of heat on his chest as if something was flowing upwards. She had vomited on his body. Gu Jingze could no longer tolerate it. Immediately, he pulled her up and dragged her to the bathroom. He threw her into the bathtub, picked up the shower spray, and directed it at her head. "So damn dirty. Can't you be at least a bit feminine? What woman behaves like you? After drinking so much alcohol, you come home in a drunken frenzy and you even dare to barf on me." The water sprayed into Linche's eyes and caused her to feel uncomfortable. She was almost about to cry as she struggled to get out. However, Gu Jingze simply jumped into the water himself, pushed her down, and forcefully washed her. As for Linche, she felt extremely refreshed from soaking in the water. She found a comfortable position and laid down directly. She slept quietly, her head resting in the crook of his arm. Her eyes were closed, and her mouth was upturned. Under the warm water, her face was red as if she had put on some of the best quality rouge. The mist condensed slowly into pearls on her long lashes. Gu Jingze gulped, and with great difficulty, shifted his gaze away from her face. He wanted to throw his hands in the air and leave her be. This troublemaker really worried him too much. However, when he turned his head to look at her under the water looking like a well-cooked lobster, he thought twice. Eventually, he walked over and carried her out in one swift motion. Lin Che woke up the next day feeling intense pain all over her body. While holding her head up with her hand, she got off the bed and looked down. Why was she naked? Her head was throbbing painfully, but she failed to immediately recall what had happened. What ridiculous things had she exactly done last night? In a drunken fit, she held on to Gu Jingze persistently and had even vomited all over him. The memory jolted her awake, causing Lin Che to quickly grab her clothes and put them on before running out in a hurry only to see the maid carrying a bowl of hangover soup. "Madam, you're awake. The hangover soup is ready." Where's Sir?" Lin Che asked softly while feeling guilty. "Why aren't you calling me hubby anymore?" A voice traveled clearly from behind her, and Lin Che immediately turned her head. Gu Jingze suddenly walked towards her from behind and took large strides. His gaze was deep and alluring, and his expression was as cold as ice. It looked like it could freeze someone. How Lin Che wished she could bury herself into a hole in the ground. As she looked at him, she fiddled with her hands as she said sheepishly, "Last night. To be precise, you should say this morning because it was already dawn when you came back." Holding a white ceramic coffee mug between his fingers, he brought it to his lips and took a sip. "Fine," Lin Che said lowly. Sorry, I was drunk. I forgot what I did." Lin Che was intending to play ignorance. Gu Jingze raised his deep eyes and looked at her. "You did nothing." "Is that so?" Lin Che blurted. Gu Jingze's eyes flashed. "Or were you hoping that you did something?" No, it's best if I didn't do anything." Lin Che looked down in guilt. Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes and stared at her. "It looks like you've forgotten everything?" Lin Che said quickly. Yes. I remember nothing." Gu Jingze came closer to her and stared at her face with his dark gaze. "You kissed me last night." Shocked, Lin Che said frantically, "No way." "That didn't happen at all. I remember clearly that I vomited before I even kissed you." It was only after she finished speaking that she realized her words. She quickly reached her hand up to cover her own mouth. Gu Jingze raised his eyebrows. "It looks like you didn't really forget everything." Greatly embarrassed, Lin Che truly wanted to slap herself a few times. With her face flushed completely red, she lowered her head and said, "Sorry, I know that I'm a married woman now, but I still behaved in that way. It's my fault. I was drunk last night, so I wasn't fully conscious. I won't do that next time." "There's still a next time?" Gu Jingze's brow twitched. No more. There won't be a second time, at least not during our marriage," Lin Che said frantically. Gu Jingze glared at her before getting up leisurely. Without a second glance at her, he walked out directly. Lin Che sat there with her hands clasped together, her face full of regret. She had actually called Gu Jingze hubby, hugged him, and asked for kisses. She would rather die. She could not blame him for being furious. She had made a deal with him to mutually stay out of each other's affairs, but last night, she had instead done something so crazy in her drunken stupor. She had even dared to call him hubby even though it was sayar. Da or sayar sayar worker kitain zar. By answer. Didn't know so, astar. Married under a contract, he was used to being superior. To hear someone call him hubby must have made him fall apart inside. Besides, even if he wanted to hear someone call him hubby, he would only want to hear Mo Huiling doing so. There was no way he would want to hear her call him that. In her immense frustration, Lin Che swatted her head. When the maid saw this, she walked over quickly. "Madam, what happened to you?" Lin Che said gloomily. "It's nothing. I just have a bit of a headache." The maid said softly, "Madam, sir probably didn't sleep well last night, so he's not in a good mood. Also, his complexion is very poor. Don't worry, madam." Lin Che raised her head. "He didn't sleep well last night? Did he suffer because of me?" The maid said, "No. Sir took a cold shower that lasted half the night, so he didn't sleep well." "What?" Dumbfounded, Lin Che said, "Your sir has so many weird habits. Why take a cold shower for no reason?" The maid did not know either. She could only guess as she said, "I saw Dr. Chen come over just now. It's probably because Sir recently changed his medical treatment plan to a new one." Lin Che shook her head and thought to herself that Gu Jing's illness was really troublesome. At the same time, inside Gu Jing's study room, Gu Jingze looked at his doctor. "I feel like my body went through some new changes recently." It was not Chen Yucheng's first or second day helping Gu Jingze with his treatment. He had been doing this for over 10 years since Gu Jingze's illness began. So when he heard him saying this now, he asked monotonously, "What changes?" "It's just that recently when I touch Lin Che, I don't really feel uncomfortable. I don't break out in rashes either. I'm wondering if it's because I had intimate relations with her, so I'm not that repulsed." Chen Yucheng shrugged and said, "I think that's entirely possible." Gu Jingze frowned. "I want a concrete answer, not a possibility." Chen Yucheng could only grudgingly say, "Sir, your illness is, in itself, very, very strange. You're probably the only case in the whole world. Thus, I only have you as a case study to examine. How can I give you a concrete answer?" Gu Jing's gaze dimmed and his expression darkened. Chen Yucheng sighed and said, "But sir, you only can't touch women. It's not like you can't get aroused. All your bodily functions operate like a typical person's, so it's normal for you to have feelings toward a woman." "No way." Gu Jingze looked at him. "I already have Huiling, and what happened between me and Lin Che was just an accident." "If that's the case, you can just try to have intimate relations again to check if your body might feel differently." "No, this isn't an experiment." Gu Jingzi stood up, took his clothes, and walked out. Lin Che was not a guinea pig either. At a Western restaurant, Gu Jingzi elegantly held a knife and fork in each hand as he sliced the exquisite beef on his plate. To the side, a violinist was playing melodious music, giving the entire high-class restaurant a tranquil feel with ample ambiance. Mo Huiling smiled as she said, "The food here is really quite good." Gu Jingze nodded. "It is." Mo Huiling saw that there was something wrong with Gu Jingze's expression. Confused, she asked, "Jingze, why are you in such low spirits today?" Gu Jingze looked up slightly. "Maybe it's because I didn't sleep well last night." Mo Huiling's face crumpled a little. With some resentment in her gaze, she looked at him with her head down. "About what I said before, my suggestion for you to move out and live with me. Have you decided?" The hand holding his fork paused. "I'm still considering it." In a fit of anger, Mo Huiling put down her fork and knife immediately. "Jingze, are you even seriously considering it?" Upon being forcefully questioned, Gu Jingze felt a little impatient. But he thought to himself, he could understand. It was normal for Mo Huiling to have such worries. "I am considering it seriously. However, I don't want to take the risk of being discovered by my family. You know that I'm a cautious person in my dealings. I would much rather prefer thorough plans that are absolutely safe as opposed to being worried every day about whether or not I will be discovered." Is it really because you're afraid of being discovered, or is it because you just don't want to be separated from your wife?" Mo Huiling said, almost running out of patience. Gu Jingze froze as Mo Huiling stood up immediately. If you don't want to be separated from her, then I'll leave. I'll back out and let the two of you be together. Wouldn't that be great? As she said this, Mo Huiling took her bag and walked out without looking back. Gu Jingze put down his fork and knife, but he sat there without chasing after her. Of course, he wanted to tell Mo Huiling that there was nothing going on between him and Lin Che. However, it was not necessarily true that he and Lin Che had no relationship. At the very least, they had the most intimate of relationships, something he could not deny. Very soon after, he returned home, but before he even entered, he seemed to hear Lin Che inside speaking to someone over the phone. "Stepmother, I've said it before. I'm not going back, so just forget about it," Lin Che said. Through the phone, Han Kai-ying could not see her, so at the very least, she did not dare act too aggressively. Her tone of voice brought with it a hint of consolation as she said, "Lin Che, stepmother is also doing this for your own good. There is nothing bad about the Chung family. Although the idiot is dumb, at least his family background is good. If you marry him, you will good days ahead. You'll immediately become the young madam and be able to buy whatever you want. Their family won't control you. Your husband is sick and won't be able to control you either. By that time, the Chung residence will be under your rule." Lin Che snorted. "If it's so good, why don't you let Lin Yu marry into the family?" "It's because they didn't take a fancy to Lin Yu." In her heart, Han Kai-ying thought to herself, "Let Lin Yu marry into that family? In the future, Lin Yu is going to be a proper young madam. How can she marry into that kind of family?" Lin Che said coldly, "Stepmother, I'm not interested in being some young madam. I've already asked someone to retrieve my belongings at home. I will never return to the Lin residence again." Hearing Lin Che be so resolute, Han Kai-ying's voice instantly sharpened as she said, "Lin Che, do you really want to cut ties with the family? Fine. First, return me all the money I spent on you since you were young. I put so much effort into bringing you up, and now that your wings have hardened, you want to leave?" Dumbfounded, Lin Che said, "Fine. Putting aside the fact that I waited on all of you like a housekeeper, something I should have received a lot of money for, you have given me a place to live after all. I will slowly repay the money I owe you by earning it." Lin Che, what's wrong with you? Do you think I'm unaware of your machinations? The reason you went to Lin Li's production team is because you still want to compete with Lin Li and seize the opportunity to make Qin Qing notice you, right? Stepmother, your imagination is straying way too far. Lin Che could not be bothered to explain herself. Han Kai-ying scolded, "Why don't you look at yourself? Which part of you can even compare to Lin Li's pinky finger? Yet you still hope that Qin Qing will take a fancy to you? If you really don't have such thoughts, then immediately back out from the cast." Lin Che scowled and said, "Now get this clear. That is my job. I won't listen to you and back out just because you asked me to." Lin Che said, "Also, if you're really so scared that I might snatch Qin Qing from her, then make your daughter look more attractive. What are you threatening me for?" When Lin Che finished speaking, she slammed the phone down. She lifted her head only to coincidentally see Gu Jingze behind her. His jet-black irises were like deep waters of the sea, alluring and mysterious. With awkwardness showing plainly on her face, she looked at him and said, "Why don't you make any sound when you walk? It's basic etiquette to walk quietly. Surely not everyone should be like you, making unnecessary noises and fussing around." Gu Jing's walked in with his long legs, his posture elegant. Lin Che said in a dismayed tone, Yes. You're the most well-mannered person and I'm the most uncultured. Luckily, we'll be getting a divorce sooner or later. Otherwise, I would really go mad if I had to be educated and be looked down upon for the rest of my life." With his hands clasped behind his back, Gu Jingze said, "Indeed, it's true." "What?" I'm the most well-mannered and you're the most uncultured. It's completely true, Gu Jingze said. You... Lin Che shot a glare at him as she huffed. She then walked forward, imitating the small steps of a lady. Upon seeing this, Gu Jingze's urge to laugh almost broke his facade. Lin Che turned back and said, "Do you like such a gait? Did I imitate it well?" "So dumb," he said. "With your stupidity, it's no wonder you ended up drugging the wrong person." "Hey, didn't we agree not to bring up that matter again?" Lin Che said, her face swelling with anger. Gu Jingze looked at her and wanted to say something, but could not help but ask, "Is that Chin Ching the man you like?" The smile on Lin Che's face instantly stiffened greatly. A hint of deep grief flashed in her eyes. "Don't you feel awkward at all talking to your wife about the person she likes?" "No," he said. Lin Che was speechless. "Fine. Anyway. Yes, actually. It's all right for me to tell you since you don't know him anyway. Not everyone is so lucky to have the person they are attracted to like them back as well. He and I can probably be considered childhood sweethearts, but unfortunately, the person he has always liked is Lin Li." When she lifted her head, Lin Che's eyes met Gu Jingze's profound ones. At that moment, she felt as if that sensual gaze could almost penetrate her body. "If you want, I can help you get him." "Get him?" Lin Che looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean?" "It's exactly what it sounds like. If you want, I can make him like you and be together with you." Gu Jingze's rich voice was laced with haughty arrogance. "Ha, how can you make him like me?" Lin Che said. Gu Jingze said, "For instance, I can make him unable to get engaged to your sister. I can impose pressure on him and force him to be with you." "Ha, then forget it." She said quickly, "Why not make him marry Lin Li quickly so that people won't all think that I'm trying to snatch him away? I feel so awkward in that situation." Gu Jingze's brow furrowed. "It's not impossible either, but are you sure you want that?" "I'm already married now. Is it really good for you to be talking to a married woman about this?" Looking at his poker face, she hurriedly interrupted him. Gu Jingze said, "It doesn't matter. I've said it before. I made this marriage happen, so I can definitely give you any compensation you ask for. Apart from money, I can count this as part of the compensation too." "Forget it. Right now, I just feel that I've heard enough of his name. Actually, love is just one part of life. My bigger wish is to act and improve myself, career-wise. In this way, better people will be able to see me. Then, I'll be able to meet much better men. As for Chin Ching, he'll just be a small interlude at most by then. Throughout life, who hasn't met a person he or she loved but could not have, right? I haven't met such a person," Gu Jingze said coolly. "Fine," Lin Che thought, as she looked at him speechlessly. But she also knew that he was speaking the truth. Lin Che said, "All right. I'll go take a shower first." "All right. But if you change your mind, you can tell me anytime." "Thank you." Lin Che thought to herself that no matter what, he was still trying to help her. Gu Jingze said, "It's all right. I'm your husband. It's only right for me to consider your interests. Including helping your wife find her next husband?" "Gu Jingze, you're really too nice." Lin Che smiled instinctively and said. When Gu Jingze saw her radiant smile, his gaze paused for a bit before it shifted away. "That's right. I'll fulfill every promise I make to you." When they just married, he had already said that he would compensate her, and he was definitely going to. Lin Che's heart thumped as he stood there completely upright, saying things like, "I'll fulfill every promise I've made to you." She felt that he gave off a deadly sensual feeling. She turned her head away and blinked before smiling, faintly. No matter how good he was, he belonged to someone else anyway. She was going to divorce him sooner or later.